Did you know that thousands of people on Cape Cod are now using the Open Cape fiber optic network? In Falmouth, we're using it at our schools, our libraries, and at work. The Open Cape network is a community resource built for the Cape region. 18 Falmouth town government buildings, including all our public schools, are using the high-speed broadband services provided by Open Cape's partner, CapeNet. capenet.com for more information.
Internet services provided by Cape.com Incorporated. Established in 1994, Cape.com is the only locally owned and operated internet service provider on Cape Cod. Our specialties include e-commerce applications and design, wide area networking services, and high-speed DSL internet access throughout eastern Massachusetts. Cape.com continues to lead the way with cutting-edge applications, superior networking services, and quality customer support. For more information, visit us at www.cape.com or call us at 539-9500.
Join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to make a little bit of an adjustment in our agenda, and our next item is business. Go to a proclamation, and our first proclamation is to recognize the efforts of our Falmouth High School Clippers football team. We had some graduating seniors: Adam Bruce, Hunter Scribner, Emmett Kelleher, Julian Summers, Jake Campbell, Tristan Rowell, Yanni Rusco, Leonardo de Oliveira, Jake Caramba, Devin Sims, and Nicholas Marston. And because of their great efforts, the Barnstable Selectmen, on behalf of their board, sent 72 meat pies to the Falmouth Service Center in recognition of what you guys were able to do. And Ms. Moran's going to read our proclamation to you.
Thank you for that. The proclamation is, whereas the 2015 Falmouth High School varsity football team ended its Atlantic Coast Division regular season with 8 wins and 3 losses, securing Falmouth High School football program's first playoff appearance in 19 years, and has 3 players represented on the Atlantic Coast All-Stars. And whereas the 2015 Falmouth High School varsity football team defeated Somerset Berkeley in the MIAA Division III Southeast quarterfinals, whereas on Thanksgiving Day, November 26, 2015, the Falmouth High School football team played its rival, Barnstable High School, and whereas on that Thanksgiving Day, the Falmouth High School varsity football program, quote, brought the cup back to Falmouth. Could you raise just for a second? Ah, fantastic. This is for the first time since the 2009 season, and whereas our Falmouth team played its best game of the season in all 3 phases of the game, with no huddle, triple option offense was effective all game, and the team never facing a 4th down. The football was circulated on defense to 9 different ball carriers. Coming out in the 3rd quarter, our team played flawless football, allowing our entire roster to receive playing time, including well-deserved seniors and up-and-coming sophomores and freshmen. Coach Derek Almeida led his team, who proudly represented the high school and our community. Now therefore, we, the Board of Selectmen of the town of Falmouth, by the power vested in us, declare that December 21st, 2015 be set aside as Falmouth High School Football Team Day in the town of Falmouth, and we call upon the citizens of Falmouth to join with us in expressing appreciation to the members of the team, to their coaches and families for their years of loyal and dedicated service to our students and programs, and for their outstanding example of the youth of Falmouth, and we wish them the very best in their future endeavors. We set our hand and seal of the town of Falmouth, Doug Jones, Chair, Sue Moran, Vice Chair, Mary Pat Flynn, Rebecca Moffett, and Sam Patterson. This is really a momentous occasion for Falmouth, and you guys will never forget it. The effort was really has paid off. The coaches, the parents, it's quite a season, and the whole town is proud of you.
It's a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None?
A rousing cheer.
Congratulations.
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 See your name.
Great team. We're
Oh,
going to get this
yes.
back to the high
Amazing.
school and get it displayed as best you
Oh,
can.
that's
Thank you
fantastic.
very much.
We'll see you next year.
Congratulations.
Right here. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Coach. Congratulations.
Congratulations, well done.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah?
Right.
Let's keep it on our table right here for the meeting
We'll get it back
tonight.
to you. Promise. Okay.
That's fantastic.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Kathleen.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Kathleen.
Thanks for coming too, Kathleen. Bye-bye. Great.
Next, then, we're back to our announcements, and just to announce that our next meeting will be on Tuesday, January 5th, and I think we'll be in the Herman meeting room for that meeting.
7 p.m.
A major item on the agenda will be our budget presentation for that meeting. Okay. Announcements. Mr. Rafferty?
Thank you. I'm not sure how quick I should see it or not yet, but a short PowerPoint presentation is one, otherwise I'll go very short.
Let's start just with your, I think we'll have a press release and your shutdown.
Take one of those. give it back to the back.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Steve Rafferty, the Water Superintendent for the town of Falmouth. On December 10th, a little over a week ago, we did our fourth quarter sampling for disinfection byproducts. We sampled for trihalomethanes and haliocetic acids at 211 Knobska Road. The results of that sampling showed that the locational running average was 80.7 parts per billion. The allowable limit without having to do public notification is 80 parts per billion. So therefore, we are involved in a process of doing public notification that we're in exceedance of a water quality parameter. I provide you all a copy of the public notification that will be posted on the town's website. Has been sent to the enterprise for publication. Has been sent to the Board of Health for notification. And will be sent to the DEP for notification. And in addition, will be mailed to all affected customers of the water system. At the present time, we're engaged in a conversation with the DEP, whether that involves all 20,000 plus users or those users most likely to be affected by these exceedances. And we'll know that answer before this week is out, and that'll determine how many mailings we do to individual customers. I've given you all a little graphic that will go into the notifications. We sample at 8 locations for these values. There's an 80 part per billion limit for trihalogenated methanes, a 60 part per billion limit for haliocetic acids, and I'm going to talk to you very briefly about where these things come from and why. But we sample at 8 locations in town. We've exceeded the value for one parameter at one location, and that's down at Knobska Point, going down towards the Woods Hole area. but we're very close also at another location, Black Hills Beach, up in West Falmouth. And the rest of the town, we are well within the limits we need to be. Very briefly, what is a disinfection byproduct and why do they occur? Basically, when you apply chlorine for disinfection to the water, it reacts with any organics in the water and it creates byproducts. They're measured as trihalomethanes and haloacetic acids. And there's a couple of factors that determine this. One is the concentration of chlorine you apply. The other one is the concentration of organic matter present in the water that you're chlorinating. The only water in town that's got organic matter in is the water that comes out of Long Pond. The other water supplies have no measurable organic matter that would be a source of disinfection byproducts. In particular, algae in the pond and/or leaf litter are the primary source of organic matter. The other thing that affects what you get for a disinfection byproduct is how far away are you from the point that we chlorinate the water. In other words, how long does it take before the water gets to your house? Obviously, the size of the pipe and the distance determines how long it takes for the water to get out there. The further away, the more likely you are to get a higher number. We sampled 8 locations based upon a study done 5 years ago to identify locations furthest away from Long Pond in the way water gets distributed and most likely to be able to measure the highest concentration. So we're looking for the worst value to give the highest degree of safety. More customers in the summer means the more water gets there quicker, means the values are lower. In the winter, with seasonal population, areas where there's not so many people around, it takes longer for the water to get to the customers that are still on the system, the value comes up. Let me say right here that the fact that we exceeded the disinfection byproducts is a long-term health issue. It's not an immediate health issue. It's not a boil water, don't drink the water type situation. I've given you a couple graphs to look at if you have any interest in doing that. One is for 30 Green Acres Road, one of the 8 sites we sampled. And if you look at the graph, you can see the seasonal variability up and down because at the end of the winter, there's not a lot of algae in the pond. By the end of the summer, when it's warm and everything, there's more algae in the pond. And as we get into the fall and the leaves fall down off the trees around the pond, we get more organics from the leaf and we get higher numbers in the fall. I've also given you the graph for 211 Knobsco Road that indicates that while we've been doing everything we can to stay under the value, it's not a surprise that we tweaked over it because it's been skirting along the edge of it for a while. The next graph I gave you just as information to keep you up to speed is a graph that on the bottom of the graph there's a blue line and it shows turbidity. Turbidity is a measure of kind of how clear the water is. It's a good basic parameter of how dirty the water might be before you chlorinate it. And if you look at that graph that runs from August up till the present, you can see that curve sort of keep climbing uphill through the fall. And above that, you see 2 other lines. One is when we disinfect, we have to basically maintain 2 milligrams per liter of chlorine at the point of, as it's leaving the facility. We have to have it above 2. So we have to put enough chlorine in that reacts initially with whatever's in there to kill any pathogens. We don't want people to get sick from the water. So the rules about applying chlorine are fairly specific about how much you've got to put in. It's a balancing act, ultimately, between protecting the public from the initial issues of getting sick today, because there's something in the water that will make you sick, against what happens as this stuff breaks down over long term. Just again, quick background. Chlorine is the most common disinfectant used in the United States. Probably 260 million people around the United States are getting water that's disinfected with chlorine. The EPA, back in 1998, began to realize that chlorine was making byproducts, and they started to wrestle with what to do about that. And really, it's balancing the trade-off between this pathogen control, immediate danger from getting viruses, the sickness you can get if the water's not clean, versus what happens on long-term risks from these disinfection byproducts. We started the program in 2009, sampling these locations around town. Initially, it was a town-wide average. So obviously, if you look back at the 8 values, we get 6 good values, 2 high values. The town's average comes down. Next round of this whole regulation, the government said, let's start doing this on a locational basis. Look at each individual location. Hence, we have these 2 locations that are, we flirt with the numbers in there. Just to help everybody else who's at home listening to this presentation, and anybody that's in the room, long-term risk is defined really as somebody who would be drinking this water every day, all the time, for their lifetime. That's not to mitigate the fact that there's something there from disinfection byproducts we need to protect ourselves against. Again, for those people at home that may have some risk, and these things have been identified as potentially causing some issues with the liver and the kidney, and/or increasing the risk of certain cancers on a long-term basis. The cleanest and simplest thing anybody at home can do right now is make sure they have some form of a carbon filter on the water they're drinking. But what can we do about these disinfection byproduct concentrations, in the long term? Well, the first thing that we do is we have seasonally been minimizing the use of Long Pond. We only use Long Pond at this time of the year if we don't have enough water from our other sources. That's 2 to 4 hours a day right now. It's still 2 to 4 hours. I wish I wasn't using Long Pond because of what's in the pond right now and what we're seeing. The other one is to reduce the concentration of organics that get disinfected. I'm pleased to say we're still on schedule for building a new water plant that will come online in the spring of 2017. When that new water plant comes online, it's going to be removing the organics. The disinfection byproduct numbers will plummet. The last thing is to try to increase the flow of water in the pipelines. I've begun looking at what it might take to put in a couple of permanent bleeders for the next year or so at both of these locations where we're getting the high values. That will take a few weeks to organize and put in place, and we'll wind up wasting some water through that process, but I think it's probably a good trade-off at the present time. With that, I open myself up to any questions you might have.
Are there particular directions that you would give any folks with compromised immunity, pregnant women, any of that?
Take the first one first. Again, if you're on a dead-end line and you're on the Woods Hole area or the western shoreline, which is where the water from Long Pond tends to go to when we turn the pumps on. If you're on a dead-end line and you don't have any other neighbors around you using the water, I would really suggest that you get a Brita filter for the water you're drinking, or some type of carbon filter. It's the best, most effective way to knock that number down right now. I know that the Board of Health put an advisory out to all the doctors in town. Pregnant women that take a hot shower might be exposed to some volatilization of these compounds, and there's some initial science that would say that that's not a good thing to be exposed to. So I know the doctors in town have been given that advice from the Board of Health, and I would encourage that as well.
Thank you.
Any questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is public comment. If anyone would like to make a public comment, something that's not on our agenda this evening, please limit to 2 minutes. Mr. Finneran?
Mark Finneran, Precinct 6. There's been a lot of talk lately about town meeting, what went wrong with town meeting. It was an agenda item the last meeting you had, and it was the subject of a commentary written in the Enterprise this past week, which I found kind of bizarre, where he started out actually reciting what the actual problem was and then went on to blame it on town meeting members themselves, simply for asking answers to questions that should be public knowledge. This exact same problem was on display again last week at the West Falmouth Library in the meeting regarding the fire engine. A longtime volunteer, taxpayer, and town meeting member simply was looking for some information from Mr. Suso. And Mr. Suso was quite rude and quite defensive. And if anybody's looking to find out what went wrong with town meeting,
It's a policy,
I
please leave it
suggest
to
that
not
you
talking about
go
people.
no further than the mirror in front of you. Thank you.
Next item are the minutes. Yep.
Hi, I'm Ron Zweig. I'm in Precinct 1, and I'm your representative from the Cape Light Compact. And I'd just like to, I've got some good news tonight as well, so we'll change the tone a little bit. But the, anyway, happy solstice, everyone. It is the longest night of the year, which means we need the most lighting. And in that, we can look at toward lighting efficiency and those types of things. And you can contact the Cape Light Compact with regard to its energy efficiency program. And I think that at this moment in time, and especially after the agreements in Paris over climate change, that we need to, and the fact that last month was the warmest November on record, and that this month is probably going to be the warmest December on record, that anything we can do with regard to lessening our use of energy. And the Cape Light Compact has a very good energy efficiency program that can help you at your home. And you can basically call this number, 1-800-797-6699. And as I've always said, our operators are waiting. Also, the Cape Light Compact supports the Housing Assistance Corporation of Cape Cod, and that number is 508-771-5400. And that, the Housing Assistance Corporation helps low-income households. The Cape Light Compacts program helps all residences, businesses, and governments on the Cape. And I think it's critical that we conserve as much electricity and produce as much renewable electricity as we possibly can in our community and throughout the country, in the world, really. And so I think that we need to take every effort we can to improve the current status. Now, another bit of good news, though, is that the Cape Light Compact negotiated over the next year, starting with your end of January bills rates, and it's 1.2 cents for those on the Cape Light Compact system below what Eversource or what NSTAR is offering. So the Cape Light Compacts program, and the more people enrolled in Cape Light Compact can help keep it going. And just one more thing, sorry. Anyway, I suggest contact these folks, do what you can, and to help out with these programs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, we have our minutes from November 23rd, regular session. And I do have one correction on page 5. Page 6. Page 6, item 4, instead of do the sign variance, sentence says Chairman Jones already gave a variance for the other 4 post spots. I was just, Chairman Jones noted that the board had already given a variance for the other posts, and he noted that they are looking for a sign in a different location.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
On page 3, a name correction under 3 special events, new, second sentence should be Mr. Hoffer, said the date.
So 3A, Hoffer, H-O-F-F-E-R.
Yes, instead of Hoffer.
Yep.
Hoffer.
Any other changes for November 23rd?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it with those changes. Next, the open session on Monday, December 7th.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it. The next is the executive session, item number 1 for December 7th. This is the discussion pending wind turbine litigation, Okagawa versus EBA.
Well, there actually are a couple of corrections on that. Probably can describe them to you without
Okay.
relating. If you look under the Board of Select, let's see, under the Board of Selectmen category on the 1, 2, 3, 4th paragraph, you'll see Okagawa's attorney. I think that should be Okagawa's physician. You see what I'm talking about? Was a Wisconsin witness.
No, I thought it was, I think that's correct.
Okay.
Anything else?
Nope. That's all.
Motion to approve and not release.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve and not release. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. And then the executive session meeting Monday, December 7th, item 2, collective bargaining firefighters.
Well,
Mr. Patterson.
Yep.
this is a correction, it would be, from the bottom would be the fourth paragraph up. And I think it says, you ask for an induction, I think that should be injunction.
Yes.
Right.
And then at the very end of the minutes, there are a lot of blanks. And if I could offer, I think it was Ms. Moran motion to close the executive session, and I believe it was at 6:55, and reconvene the open session. Second, I believe I was the person that seconded.
And that's for both minutes, for both executive session 1 and 2.
That's correct, for both.
We had that in both of them. So is it, Ms. Moran made the motion at 6:55, and Mr. Patterson made the second.
Correct. Yes, I see it.
So motion to approve with the changes and not release.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve and not release with those changes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the ayes have it. All right. Next, our summary of actions. We have a new livery license. This has been continued from our previous meeting in hopes that we'd have a representative from the VVV Transportation Inc. Yep. If you come to the podium, state your name and your connection to the organization, please.
VVV Transporter Inc.
And your name?
Wagen.
Okay, can we get your full name, please?
Wagen Ara Killian.
Okay. And you are, how are you connected to the company?
She's my wife and also I'm her partner.
Okay. Ms. Moffett, you had a question?
No, I just thought maybe if he'd just spell his first and last name.
VAAGN and last name ARAKELYAN.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Any questions from the board?
Could you describe the vehicle that you're only going to, you want a license for one vehicle, is that correct?
No, we're gonna
More
have,
than
yeah,
one?
About 3 vehicles.
Well, this says one vehicle, it says, on your application,
we
it says
asked
for
for
livery
one, but,
license with one vehicle to be stored at 348 East Falmouth
We
Highway.
asked for one, but if it's possible, can we have like 2 or 3?
There's only one for purposes of this hearing. That would be a different
Oh,
proceeding.
okay, okay, that's fine, that's fine.
And could you tell us if 348 East Falmouth Highway is a residence, or is
No,
it?
it's a business.
It's a
location.
business.
Yep.
I think we need to be very clear that it is for one vehicle, not one vehicle and you hope you can use 3. It is very strict that we have applied for one
No,
vehicle.
can we apply later on? If we need-
Sure, it will be a different application.
Oh, sure.
Until you
Yeah,
receive that
that's-
application.
That's fine.
It's just for one.
Sure.
Ms. Moffett?
Do we have a Corey report here? I've gone through
The police
it.
department received it, they
And,
acknowledged they
but
received
did
it.
they acknowledge they received a Corey report?
They did, I read it.
Yes.
Wow.
It just,
Oh,
I have it that they said you need
requested
one.
it.
They're requesting it, but I haven't seen that it was actually, do you see it?
Right. No, you're right, it doesn't really say that it was received,
That's right.
but we would have to check with the chief on that, because we don't have Cory, we're not cleared to do Cory.
No.
so.
correct.
And
Ms. Moffett?
another question, you live in Quincy,
Yes,
and you're just operating this one vehicle, hope for 3, in Falmouth?
yes,
So you return to Falmouth each day?
yes. So it's only,
And do you intend to use this on a year-round basis, or just
Yes.
seasonally, year-round?
yes, year-round.
I guess I'm now curious. Why?
I used to live on the Cape. I know how Cape Cod people need very good livery business. And I know it's gonna work, yeah.
It just seems like a long commute to be doing for one taxi, for one car.
We're gonna move back to the Cape, so we want to have a business here.
Okay.
We wanna,
Well, that makes a lot of sense then, okay. Ms. Moran?
Do you have experience in the livery business?
oh yeah, I've been working 7, 8 years in this business.
And what kind of clientele do you service?
Any kind of client.
For delivery of documents?
People.
People, just people,
Yeah,
okay,
just
thank you.
people, no, just people.
Okay. I would move approval, subject to the verification that the query's been reviewed and approved. Second.
Motion and second to approve contingent upon the receipt of the query form. With, return of query. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. We'll wait to make sure we get that, and then it'll be all set.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Happy holidays.
Thank you.
All right, next we have administrative orders. We're going to go through each one of these individually. The first, oh, thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay. First is to approve a request for a license to perform vista pruning on town-owned property adjacent to 41 Cove Street, the Holmes family. If you remember, this application did come to us earlier. We had to give permission before it could go to the Conservation Commission for them to do the stabilization and the vista pruning. And we did know it could come back to us, and we could confuse matters and say we said yes before, but say no now. But do we have any questions for Mr. Breivogel? Do you want to say anything?
I have a question about the license. What does the license say? That they're allowed to vista prune for a certain period of time? Or is it just a blanket license? Is it for a year?
My understanding is it's for this one, I mean, it's a one-time thing, and they had to do this 4 or 5 years ago, and if they want to come back, they'll have to go through the whole process again, because this is on town property, and it's, anytime that we're gonna allow someone to do any work on town property, it is a one-time license you receive, but.
I have not seen the proposed document for the license. My understanding is, talking to Mr. Duffy tonight, is that the license permits the work to be done on town property and for the biolog system to remain on town property for the term of the order of conditions, which is typically 3 years.
Well, I thought it included the, what you call the biologs too, but this is only for vista pruning.
Well, vista pruning is also part of the work, so it would permit the vista pruning during that period of time, as I understand it. I haven't seen the license. Mr. Duffy could possibly clarify the actual terms of the license.
Mr. Moffett?
What's the difference in having a permit and a license?
License is because it's on town property, permit is on their own property, they'd be allowed to do that.
So I understand about the vista pruning, because that's like a one-time thing, but, and it doesn't require maintenance. But the biologs, I don't know, once they're installed, if they require any future maintenance or replacement, and if the license covers that as well, or does it just simply cover the installation?
The biolog system lasts 6 or 7 or 8 years, assuming that there's not a hurricane or a major event that would destroy them. But that's their expected useful lifetime, okay? So at some point, year 6, 7, or 8, the homes will most likely come back and file a new notice of intent with the Conservation Commission to install a new biolog system.
And so the maintenance of it is not a part of it.
It's
to
not part
install
of
it.
it, it's just to install them.
And the 3-year time is, it may take a while to get the whole
Right.
thing done.
Okay. All right, I'm okay. I didn't quite understand that.
Any other questions? All right,
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, the ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We now have a public hearing. This is an application for transfer of licenses and alteration of licensed premises with a time of 7:30. This is part of the liquor license hearing. Notice here is hereby given under Chapter 138 of the General Laws as amended that Water Street Kitchen, Inc., doing business as Water Street Kitchen, has applied for a transfer of ownership and an alteration of licensed premises of the all-alcohol common victual license located at 56 Water Street, Woods Hole, Mass. Application has been made for transfer of the entertainment license and for a new Sunday entertainment license. That will not be a part of this hearing tonight. The hearing will be held in Selectmen's Meeting Room, Falmouth Town Hall, on Monday, December 21st at 7:30 on the above application. For the applicant, please, if you'd introduce yourself and
Thank you.
tell us what you hope to do.
My name is Molly Wilson, and I've grown up in Falmouth, and my husband John and I have now decided to raise our family here and start our business here. So this will be our first shot at business ownership, but we've been in the restaurant business for quite some time, our entire careers, in fact, and spent many years managing other people's businesses, so now we'd like to do it on our own. Our concept is a menu built around largely, as much as possible, locally sourced ingredients and local food. So that means farm to table, seed to table, seasonally changing menu, in an atmosphere that feels like a neighborhood cafe. So sense of place is very important to us, and we're very excited, and we're very happy to be doing it here in Falmouth.
As I understand, you're taking over the location of the fishmonger?
The fishmonger, correct.
Describe to me what the parking situation is connected with that lease. I mean, it must be, I couldn't find exactly the details.
There is no parking situation connected with the lease.
Okay.
It's on street parking in Woods Hole with meters, and that's what they, that has been what goes on down there, and for all the other restaurants as well. The Dyer's Dock parking lot directly next door in the summertime is made available by Hui for a few dollars to park in the evenings, I think, nights and weekends. But there's no parking connected with the restaurant.
Questions from the board? Ms. Moffitt?
I want to talk about the entertainment.
Okay.
And you say that there's going to be probably 4 musicians, is what you're thinking about?
Yeah, we don't have...
That's not our,
excuse me.
the entertainment license is not on the hearing tonight, because we don't actually have that application. So this is just on the transfer of ownership and the alteration of licensed premises, I believe.
I believe the application for the entertainment license was submitted.
Not included on the agenda.
Since it's not on our agenda, it's,
It says here in the hearing note, application has also been made for the transfer of an entertainment license for
right,
and
but it's
for
not
a
on
new Sunday.
It's not on our agenda
No,
that we
but it's
posted.
part of
for
the hearing, so I guess, I don't know.
Unless transfer of license also connotes transfer of entertainment license. I don't know.
Okay, anyway, Ms. Moffitt, we knew what the
Yes.
information anyway, so go ahead with
Okay.
the question.
It is in the public hearing notice as well,
Okay.
that there's an entertainment license, so we'd probably be safe to move forward.
Ms. Moffitt, your question?
And it seems to be a Sunday only, and a Sunday entertainment license.
Yes, we'd like both. We don't have any specific plans for music now, but historically there has been music events that happen at that space, and I think it's important to a number of people in the community, specifically the community in Woods Hole. So despite the fact that we don't have specific plans to have music events at this time, what we foresee in the future is, small, probably mostly acoustic. I can't imagine more than, 4, 5, 6 people. We're not talking about big noisy shows. We're talking about music playing while people are eating dinner or eating Sunday brunch.
We have an issue in Woods Hole concerning loud music in restaurants.
Okay.
There's an issue.
Well, I guess I am aware of that. We do not intend to be a bar separate from the restaurant. We see the food as the predominant business and believe that most of our customers would be eating. And once the kitchen closes and the dining room closes, the bar would really shut down at that time too. So we're really not looking for having late night music events or really anything more than music while people are enjoying their meals.
And the license does specify it's 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and that would be the end of the entertainment anyway,
Okay.
by their application.
And did we have a Corey report? Because I don't remember seeing that in
Well, we
here.
don't get those.
Yeah, we don't.
Only the police department gets them.
Well, do we
Yeah.
know that I didn't see that it was received, that the Corey report was not received by the police department, is what I'm saying.
I think
Usually we get a notice from,
We usually do, right.
and it just says that they, So you did all of the paperwork for the quarry?
Yep.
And the police department has that?
Yes, I submitted it all to the town clerk's office on December 7th, I believe was a Monday, and then it ran in the paper that Friday, which was the 11th.
This is not something that requires a query. The state and the police have come back and said they have no issues with the application.
Did they?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question about the seating, like the patio seating, which I
Yeah.
think is a great idea. And I noticed that the entrance to the patio, you have to come into the restaurant to be
Yes.
able to access the patio, which is, so you don't get people just stopping,
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
bringing their own coffee.
I think it's required by the ABCC, but it's also right by the drawbridge, so it works for us because we wouldn't want people to sort of come seat themselves. So that's where I think it's phrased as an alteration of premises comes in, and, not only is outside seating a draw in and of itself, but it will really improve the face of the restaurant. And when you're walking by or driving by, to see a couple tables outside with some candles or lighting or, beautifications, I think will be a big draw for us.
And so the license would include the patio, is what you're,
Correct,
Yeah.
yes. So it will be enclosed, and as you said, you'd have to enter the restaurant, go through the restaurant, and then come back out another door onto the patio, which would be enclosed by a rope anchored to the building and then placed on freestanding posts.
Just because this issue, you're raising this issue and does not really completely relate to you, but our regulations right now about outside tables and chairs and patios may need to be redefined. Certainly in the downtown area of Falmouth right now, we're having a lot of establishments that are starting to block the sidewalk with more and more things, whether it's tables, whether it's racks that they're displaying their wares. And I'm going to take this opportunity to hope that the Village Association get those businesses to understand, once you start blocking traffic, it is going to be something that we're going to have to take a stand on. And I'll say to you also, is making sure that it stays within the confines of the patio. Once it gets further beyond into that sidewalk, and either for ADA compliance, it's starting to block passage, what you are having people who are going to back up there at the bridge, and just to be sensitive to that. Do we have any public comment? Anyone who'd like to speak in favor of this transfer of ownership and alteration of licensed premises? Anyone who'd like to speak in opposition to this alteration? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close?
Motion and a second to close the hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The hearing is closed, and we'll now deliberate as to how we want to handle this.
Well, each question that I asked was answered, and if there were questions I asked that isn't anything to do with selectmen, I understand that. But I don't see that there's any problem with this. There's always been a restaurant there. People are accustomed to it. It is going to have the patio part. It is going to have music. But I don't see it as anything that is going to be too different than what exists right now.
And I interpret the way our agenda says is that the transfer of licenses would be including the transfer of the entertainment licenses, because the current establishment has entertainment licenses, and so it would be appropriate for us to vote on transfer of ownership, alteration of premises, and to award the entertainment licenses for Monday through Saturday and for Sunday, because we have the applications of all that before us.
Okay.
In that case, I'll move for approval of transfer of the licenses.
And ownership.
both licenses,
Entertainment as well
and
as.
the entertainment, and the hours of operation are 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. I
I
believe
think
that's
that's
correct.
that's for the entertainment. I'm trying to think, did we have the actual operation of the business? I think was the same. Yeah.
So it's 11, you open at 11 and close at 11 p.m. Okay. Want to make sure that's included in the motion.
Yes.
The hours.
I'm not sure, it's really appropriate, so there will not be breakfast serving. As we did with the previous person, if you want to change it, you'll have to come back and change the license. It can't be that you say, oh, we want to do it now, you're going to have to get permission to do that. All right, we have a motion. And a second?
Yeah.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Very good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
Congrats.
Good luck.
And when do you hope to be open?
We hope for April, perhaps May.
Great.
Super.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is another public hearing. It's the application for change of manager for the Ocean State job lot. And this request is for changing the LLC members and the LLC manager. This is not changing the local store manager, just for the LLC. Doubt we have anybody from job lot here representing them. Do we have any questions that we won't be having answered by them, but
Well, they just had a change of manager not too long ago.
That was my first thought, was,
I thought that was the local.
But that was the
manager
lowest.
changing.
Oh, that was the local
This is
one.
at the corporation
This is the
level.
corporation's
Oh, okay.
change.
I move approval.
Well, I guess it is a hearing, so.
Oh, that's right, we need to go
We
through
have
the
no
hearing
testimony.
process. Yep.
I'm going to take a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to close the hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The hearing is closed. Mr. Patterson, would you like to go
I
ahead?
move approval.
Motion to approve the application for change of manager, the LLC. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Did
Opposed?
you get a second?
I seconded.
Oh, okay, excuse me.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it. All right, and that takes care of our public hearings. We'll move back to our administrative orders. Next item is to vote to affirm the appointment of Frank Duffy as town council. Mr. Suso?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Traditionally, the town has considered the reappointment of town council, and as town manager, I bring that reappointment to you. Mr. Duffy is currently appointed with the board's affirmation as town council through the end of this month, and so it would be appropriate to consider a subsequent three-year appointment, which again is consistent with past practice, and I would so recommend to the board.
Any discussion? Mr. Patterson?
No, I'm just going to move that we approve our town manager's recommendation for Frank Duffy to be our town council.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'll second.
Second. Discussion?
One thing I'll say, I think it's, when there's a lot going on in terms of being in the middle of a lot of cases, which we do have right now, I think consistency is a time saver and therefore a money saver. And, that's one of the reasons why I'm supporting the town manager's decision.
And the discussion that Mr. Suso and Mr. Duffy and I have had is also to consider the construction of the way we're run right now by town council as opposed to outside legal. We have a lot of expenses with outside legal counsel right now. And one of the things that we're going to ask Mr. Duffy to do is to help us do the investigation within this time period to find out, is this the right paradigm for us to be using, or should we be considering a different structure within the town? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you. Next is to accept a donation from the Lois S. Harmson Memorial Fund, in the amount of $500 to the Falmouth Public Library's Children Department, and also to accept the donation from the Falmouth Classic Car Club in the amount of $500 to the Falmouth Veterans Services Department donation account. Any discussion on those two?
I'll move approval on both. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it.
Thank you for those donations.
Thank you.
Next item is to authorize the town manager to submit an initial proposal, and if successful, a full proposal to EPA's Southeast New England program entitled Improving Sediment Quality and Reducing Benthic Fluxes Using In Situ Aeration. Mr. Suso.
I think we have, see it here to make a presentation on that.
Excellent.
See it?
Thank you. I am Sia Karplus technical consultant to the Water Quality Management Committee. This is a grant application through an EPA program. It is through the Division of Marine and Environmental Services, and it's a very exciting opportunity to look at a potentially workable solution for removing what we fondly refer to as muck in many of our estuaries without having to dredge. It's an in-situ aeration technology. And what you find in many of our estuaries are stratified water columns, so that you've got an oxic or oxygen-rich surface, and then when you start getting closer to the sediment, it's anoxic. And that is basically stifling or prohibiting nitrification from occurring, because nitrification is the addition of oxygen onto nitrogen. And so this system works in freshwater systems, and it is of great interest to the division because it is a habitat enhancement. If we can remove the muck using aeration, we then have much greater habitat for shellfish and finfish and eelgrass to grow. So it's coupling a technology that works in freshwater systems for aeration with the desire for ecological restoration, and that's what the grant will be for.
When you say aeration, I'm envisioning little hoses pumping air down into the muck.
It is not that.
Okay.
It is, and what typically happens with aeration, you're absolutely right, is the surface water is mixed. This is not a mixing system. This is a direct diffusion using basically ceramic plates that are porous on the surface of the muck, and oxygen being delivered directly through it through a tube system from the shore, not being buried at all, but just laid on the surface, self-sinking line or tube. And that direct oxygen is of a much higher concentration, and therefore likely to be much more efficacious in delivering enough oxygen to get that nitrification to occur.
But it is actually pumping oxygen into the muck.
That's right.
But not in a way that's creating greater turbidity that then gets diffused. It's just directly adding oxygen.
Exactly, because as you know, as a practitioner in science and engineering, the diffusion coefficient of oxygen is very short.
Right.
So we got to get it there, not get it close to there, because it'll never get there. So that's why we think this might work.
Okay. Ms. Moffett?
Can you give some details of the grant?
Sure.
How much you're asking for? How long do you have the grant, the right to have it?
Sure. Well, the grant has not actually been written yet. It's due January 22nd, and this is a pre-proposal, so this is a 4-page pre-proposal that's required. It's an EPA Southeast New England Estuaries Project grant, and they allow up to 4 years. This can be up to a 4-year project and up to $1 million, so it can be a significant work effort. We have not, the division has not decided finally, but I'm thinking it's probably a fraction of that, and probably a 2, maybe 3-year project, because you want to give the system time to see if it works.
I don't know if I'm right or not, but were you here a month or so ago asking about a grant, but it wasn't ready to be written a month or so ago?
That was the grant for Bourne's Pond shellfish.
Okay.
And that grant went in the next day when it was due. And we actually just heard notice that we've been asked to submit a full proposal on that grant. So.
Okay. Thank you for updating us on that. Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
A question? This sounds like, obviously this is an experimental effort to see whether this might be effective, but I get the impression that this would be something that would be a short-term remediation, and short-term might be a few years, but it's not something that we would plan to use on a continuing basis, or do you know yet? Because it seems like pumping oxygen into the sediments at the bottom of an estuary would be pretty expensive if we needed to do it continuously, and then if we had to apply it over a very large estuarial area.
I think the costs are a big part of what the grant is for, to understand how many diffusers you need, what the cost of the electricity is, those factors. And the other thing is, if you remove the muck, then you use shellfish, you can then plant. So yes, it is a one-time remediation in an effort to then restore habitat and have the habitat do the rest, in the sense of bringing back the eelgrass or bringing back shellfish.
And it was the way I understood you described it, the ceramic plates may not be in the entire estuary, may be in one spot and then once that was kind of remediated,
Sure.
could then get moved
Right.
instead of doing.
And we're looking at 1 or 2 of these plates per acre, so it's not high density. But again, this is very much, Falmouth is really trying to leave no stone unturned to look for ways to clean up our estuaries in the most cost-effective and practical ways. And the muck issue is sort of a significant impedance to future eelgrass. And ultimately, the estuaries are going to be judged not by nitrogen concentrations, but by eelgrass. And so having suitable substrate is a very important contribution to source reduction and all the other methods that we're looking at.
We'll also note that this has already gone to the Finance Committee and it meets their approval, just because all grants are supposed to be run by them, and this has. Ms. Moran?
Just a quick technical question. Do you have a green source for the electricity?
We will, of course.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I will move approval.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None, the ayes have it.
Many thanks.
Good luck.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, the next is, I have received a request for support for the REDO, the Regional Economic Development Organization grant to the Cape Cod Economic Development Council. They were looking for a letter very quickly, and I did not feel comfortable just approving this support without actually bringing it to the board. And so we do have this letter, a draft of the letter saying that the town of Falmouth is in support of this blue economy concept. Do you have any questions? Ms. Moran?
Just a quick comment. I believe that some of the connected event has been held in Falmouth, which is one good reason to support it, because I think it brings dollars as well as, all of the, the jobs related to the blue economy, which is, also related to keeping our environment clean and healthy and attractive to visitors, which drives our local businesses. So I think it's sort of a well-rounded win-win.
I would move to authorize our chairman to submit a letter in support of the REDO program on behalf of the selectmen and the town.
Motion is second. All those in favor, say Ms. Muffet?
It's the letter that we have here.
Yes.
No, that was it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it. We'll send that right off. Next is to authorize a town manager declaration of support for the fiscal year 17 mosquito control funding.
I have many neighbors that would be very disappointed if we didn't pass this. I move that we authorize the town manager to sign Form SRB-3 and return it and resubmit it to the necessary office.
Second.
Motion is second. For the discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Since we already, doesn't each town contribute money to the mosquito control program? So we're
Correct.
hoping to fund it anyway, so we should get all the benefit we can.
Okay, next item is to authorize the Board of Selectmen to send a letter to NOAA headquarters in support of maintaining National Marine Fisheries System operations in Woods Hole. You have a draft of the letter to Admiral Devaney. In particular, this is to really encourage that we make sure that we keep a vessel in Woods Hole. After the Bigelow seems to be moving on. We certainly would like to.
Mr. Chair, if I can speak to this, this is actually the entire NOAA facility that they're considering, not just the Bigelow, the research survey vessel that they use to do fish samples and counts and what have you. So apparently there has been a move to actually transfer that whole facility to some other part of the country. And so this letter is basically stating how important this is to Woods Hole and to Falmouth. And there's quite a few employees who live here and work there. But I think it's also important to cite the relationship that the Northeast Fisheries Science Center has with Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution and the Marine Biological Laboratory. That's a critical cooperative relationship that's going to enhance the studies that are being done by the NOAA facility. And for them to move it somewhere else, given the resources that are already available, I mean, it's incredible to me. So I think we need to send a letter like this to kind of inform the powers that be of why that facility should remain here in Woods Hole for the good of the country.
Ms. Moffett?
Do we have any idea how serious that would be to talk about moving NOAA? Or that it goes to another part of the country? Is that serious?
How serious to Woods Hole or how serious to NOAA?
To NOAA.
I mean, I think they're seriously considering it. I agree with Sam. I think they're wrong. I think that they would really lose a lot of what they are gaining with the cooperation and the interworkings between the different science institutions. And I'm stunned that they are considering that option to become, I would have to assume, a single scientific entity. There's no other place in the country that gives the same kind of mutual support as they get in Woods Hole. And I think it would be very, very harmful to Woods Hole and to Falmouth to have this happen also.
Well, I guess that was my point, was how serious is this?
Well, maybe I could just comment and say apparently the research vessel itself, the survey vessel, has been transferred to Newport. And so they've already begun to peel away a portion of the operations. And I gather they're going to have to either park the Bigelow at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Dock in order to load equipment on and off, or transport all the equipment to Newport in order to be able to conduct operations on the Bigelow using the NOAA facility here in Woods Hole. They're just question marks in my mind, but certainly it's a lot easier to move a ship back to a location than it is to move the entire facility and all the people that work there to make that whole process move forward efficiently and effectively.
So I might state too that we sent many letters on behalf of retaining the Bigelow here in Woods Hole to every federal and state agency that had a name. And I'm wondering, who is this person, this Admiral Devaney? Is this enough? Do we need to, I mean, it didn't help us in keeping the Bigelow. I think we should do everything we can to try to keep.
Well, we are CCing this to the governor and our senators and congressmen.
Well, that's true. We're copying them on that. Well, I think we should be very strong in our commitment to retaining the fisheries in Woods Hole.
And I just wonder if the town managers had an opportunity to speak with Admiral Devaney about what would increase the attractiveness of Falmouth?
I have not had that opportunity, but I can certainly make that overture.
I think that would be great,
Yeah,
to really
I think so.
personalize it and get some more information and, really extend a helping hand if that's what they're looking for.
And do you know where he's located? Admiral Devaney, is he in Washington or in Newport?
I don't know, but
Don't
I'll
know.
have to reach out to Jack Moakley, who had provided this information to us, and make that determination. Be happy to do so.
Good.
Any comments?
I'll make a motion to authorize the board to send a letter to NOAA in support of maintaining the National Fisheries Science Center operations in Woods Hole.
Mr. Patterson?
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. The ayes have it. All right. Next item, we're moving on to business. And we have the water and wastewater monthly report. And Mr. Suso, if you give us the details, we have received a copy of it in our packet, but if you would give us a few of the highlights. Mr. Jack is actually on a well-deserved vacation before the snow starts.
Happy to do so, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Just in brief, members of the board, first, on monthly progress for the Little Pond sewer service area improvements. During the progress period through the end of November, this past month. Work completed, the work progress during that last period included the completion of the gravity main installation in the Falmouth Heights area, continued testing of a low-pressure system in the Falmouth Heights area, and continued lateral installations also in the Falmouth Heights area. Also, the Spring Bars Road lift station, there was the installation of a wet well, and they prepared the site for the planned Alphonse Street lift station as well. And in summary, the work at both lift station sites is beginning and now underway. Also, continuing on the Little Pond service area, some anticipated improvements for the current month of December. Those will be reported on further in the coming month in Mr. Jack's report to the board in January. The work in the Falmouth Heights area is nearing completion, and the work in the Mira Vista area is planned to start up near New Year's Day. So that is all underway, and progress continues as anticipated. Moving on to the Long Pond Water Treatment Plant, the monthly report. Major items also of the past month, again through the end of November. At the raw water pump station, the installation of the two 24-inch diameter raw water intake pipes. Those were described in as to anticipated structures in past months. Those have been installed by directional drilling. At the treatment plant itself, these have been a forming and a pouring of structural concrete 10 separate times during the month of November, with a monthly total of 769 cubic yards of concrete. At the ozone contactor on site, there was installed a 30-inch diameter buried and below slab ozone feed and ozonated piping. That occurred as well. Moving on to anticipated activity for the current month of December. Construction of the raw water pump station's wet well is anticipated to occur, and all of these items, of course, weather permitting, and as has been noted, given the relatively positive weather we've had in November, December, good progress continues on both of these projects, and we look forward to Mr. Jack joining us for a PowerPoint presentation as in the past months in the coming month of January. Also, Mr. Chairman, if I may, a little brief update. As the board knows, the town has been pursuing the bidding for grinder pumps for the Little Pond Sewer Service area. We have accepted bids on the grinder pumps, and we're currently in the process of reviewing the bids received for an anticipated award soon after the first of the year. That's undergoing legal and engineering review of the bids received, and that is our current status through the present time.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll move on to the preservation of Cape Cod. I don't know what the A is for. Just the aquifer.
Hello, good evening. I'm Laura Kelly. I'm the director of POCACapeCod.org. That stands for Protect Our Cape Cod Aquifer. I'm here tonight to ask, I have 3 requests of the board. As you must know, Eversource has been spraying herbicides on our power lines for 3 years now. I want to say thank you for the Board of Selectmen here in Falmouth for writing a document against this March, I believe, in 2015. My second request is for us to wait for the YOP, the Yearly Operational Plan, to come out, written by Eversource. It will state with the use of herbicides for vegetation management underneath the power lines again, and to, disapprove this by writing another letter. It's as simple as changing the dates by the last letter you just wrote. Do wait for the YOP. There'll be a comment period of 30 days. Heather will let you know when that is. You guys might even know before me because they do contact every town. My first request is Dan Wolf has a bill at the State House right now, S478, that states each town will have the opportunity to choose what type of vegetation management they prefer other than the use of chemicals. So this won't pass, if it passes, until July. He won't even be in office at that point. But it would be a solution to preventing this from happening. So a letter would benefit this. I'm going to each town asking the same 3 requests. Again, hoping for a collective response for all of Barnstable County on these issues. My 3rd request is, it backs up to October 1st. I found a pro bono lawyer, Bruce Tubb from Orleans, who's willing to do what it takes to stop this insanity above an aquifer, basically. And he has offered his assistance for myself and my organization, but even further, we're extending the invitation to all the towns. We went to court. We took Eversource to court on October 1st, and we won. We brought 3 abutters at that point, so 3 abutters are exempt from herbicidal applications. We believe this is the way to stop them, to bring this in front of a judge and let the judge decide. There's a couple of factors that are, in my world, no-brainers. One being no spraying is allowed 50 feet within a private well or 100 feet within a public well. What about 50 feet this way, 100 feet this way? Aquifer is not that deep at all. The other, we believe they're violating their own written regulations is every single easement I've read. I've been knocking on doors for months, and from the 60s, 70s, 80s on, not one says with the state of the use of herbicides to maintain vegetation. So it's things like this that, of course, regulations could change and they could just change the wording. But in the meantime, it's been illegal for them to do what they've been doing, and it's been 3 years. This year they sprayed 13 towns. Last year 9 towns, and the year before 8 towns. They say they're going to use less over time. We don't see that happening yet at all. So my 3rd request is simple. It's to allow, my lawyer is Bruce Tubb, pro bono, to have a discussion with your town council in hopes to move forward, just to learn, to understand what that means. Finances, it's less than $1,000 to actually file in court. The verbiage would be different, most likely, than what we just did in October, because that was focused towards abutters. Per town, we would hope for privately owned land as well as town-owned land. So Brewster's being the first, being a forerunner in all of this, they're already going forward writing an injunction. They're writing a legislation right now. My wonder is if we could write one and have all 14 towns follow. Of course, Bruce is away until January 10th, so the moment he comes back, that's going to be my first question. So we're still, I'm learning. That's from lawyer to lawyer to decide. I'm just asking this town council if we could allow them to have a 20-minute or half-hour discussion to even see if your town wants to move forward with all of this. So, any questions?
Mr. Patterson?
Yes, well, the author wondered how the Department of Agricultural Resources has allowed this, because it just seems like a no-brainer that you're going to be putting chemicals into our aquifer, we're going to consume it, and the amount of testing that would make me comfortable that, you know, my children are going to be safe from this has just not been satisfied. What's going on here? Why would the Department of Agricultural Resources permit this unless their influence has always been toward, you know, people conducting agriculture and using herbicides to control weed growth?
So it backs to the EPA level. Every time I talk to MDR, I've been working with the chief counsel, I've been working with the EEA, of course the senators, many people up at the State House. I get to knock on doors and bug, and they are really doing a lot, doing what they can. I believe it's on the selectmen's level. We do have the power down here. We don't know we do very much yet because it's never happened before. So because it's at the EPA level, you know, glyphosate, Roundup's on the shelves. You know, how do we get them off? That's just a whole nother can of worms. So MDR allows it because it's already approved on the federal level. So I worked with Marky and bugging his chief of staff, and she's hanging out down there talking about this above an aquifer. But Tan Wolf, our senator, says, how do you split it at the bridge? It's got to be statewide. So whatever, there's the federal and the state going. Meanwhile, I want to play down here on home court and just go town per town and stand up and, like you said, protect for the next generations. It's up to us to do this. We can't wait for, you know, the World Health Organization came out this summer saying Roundup is a probable carcinogen. How long is it going to take to actually get off of the shelves before, you know, we have potential harm for our next generation? So I think it's really up to us to stand up and, you know, allow a possibility in court, put it in front of a judge. It's like I said, it's less than $1,000 if you use my lawyer. He'd be willing to, because the advantage of course, finances, but the advantage of using him is he is aware of all the written regulations from MDR. That's CMR 333, from Eversource, the VMP, the Vegetation Management Plan, which is 5 years, the YOP, which is the Yearly Operational Plan, which is 1 year. They're all, I mean, talk about dry reading. I don't want to do this. And, you know, it's up to you guys if you want to allow your lawyer to take the time to do that. But again, you know, Bruce will be able to support you either way, that you'd like to handle that. So unfortunately, it is in MDR's hands. And they're not, I'm going to use the words, overseeing Eversource's operation on a level that they should, and that's why there's things going on like spraying when it's 15 miles an hour, it's illegal, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many reasons where MDR is at fault on this. Again, I think we can nip this on the bud on a town level and not even try to change state or federal laws. I think that's just a harder, you know, meal to chew on, so, good question.
Questions?
Well, I have one question with regard to the attorney that you're working with. You talk about the spraying on town-owned property and then on either, which could either be public or private. The rights-of-way are either public rights-of-way or they're private rights-of-way. Now, does this attorney represent the private owner of a right-of-way as well as the public side?
Absolutely. We want to start it from the bridge to P-Town, all of Barnstable County. Absolutely. We're in this to win it. You know, we just need the support of you guys. You know, it starts with a phone call, and they'll take it from there. Maybe some writing, and then he can represent in court if you guys would allow that. So there's a couple steps that we had. At this point, just listening and learning, I think, is where we're at. So thank you.
Well, we all remember the story about Jude Wilbur a year or so ago, when he had tried to keep them off his right-of-way, and it was a fiasco.
He was actually fighting clear cutting. Right.
Yeah.
As opposed to the.
Right. Well, that's true, yeah, it was. Well, the other issue too is that some of these rights-of-way are very close to water supplies, either public wells or private wells, and oftentimes that's, the NSTAR, is it Eversource rather, doesn't often know that, how close they might be to a water supply.
It is up to your town. They ask every year, please update where your private wells are, if there's anything new, of course, where any other water sources should stay relatively the same. But there is a seawater level rise, so that's going to change in time, and you've got to update and give it to Eversource and MDR. Each year, your maybe Board of Health, I don't know, whichever department each town is, somebody's got to be in charge of updating that. But absolutely. It was interesting. I've been doing this for 7 years, and you know, it was the first time I asked for a moratorium when I realized I live in the town of Eastham, and I said, you know, we're all reliant on well water. There's no town water in this town. I said, They had no idea. So that was it. They didn't have maps. And I said, all right, we need a year off just to find wells all in Cape Cod and get you the paperwork. And they give us a year moratorium to do that. So we're pretty much caught up in all the things that I think are, that we found missing. Now it's us to just continue the, push on.
Well, the item number 2 about responding to the YLP, we can't do anything, and you don't want us to do anything on that one yet, so there's nothing to decide on that one. We do have the other 2 requests as to whether to write a letter supporting the Dan Wolf's Bill S.478.
I move that the Board of Selectmen submit a letter in support of Dan Wolf's bill number S478.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. The ayes have it. And on the meeting with, having Mr. Duffy meet with Bruce Taub.
I definitely move that we refer this to Frank Duffy and ask him to advise us on the best way to move forward.
Second.
Motion and a second. To ask Mr. Duffy to contact the POCA's attorney. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. The ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank you,
happy
Laura.
holidays.
Yeah.
You
Happy
know.
holidays.
Thank you, Laura.
I'll be in touch.
Great.
The next item is a report from our representative to the Steamship Authority Board of Governors, Dr. Gladfelder.
Good evening, Betsy Gladfelder. And just because some of you at one point had a doubt, I'm your Falmouth representative to the Steamship Authority.
Are you also chair?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's coming.
It's coming.
We get to do license.
Okay, it is true that I'm the Falmouth representative, but next. What you've appointed me as is, this is not the Board of Governors, we're actually authority members. And I don't know where the term Board of Governors came, but the role of the authority members, as some of you have been in discussions many times when you say that I'm the Falmouth representative, and the Steamship Authority people say, but she has fiduciary responsibility to the Steamship Authority. And so the role of the authority is fiduciary matters, policy matters, and so forth. There's also a 7-member port council, Woods Hole, Vineyard Haven, Oak Bluffs, Nantucket, Hyannis, Fairhaven, New Bedford. The authority members, as some of you know, have weighted votes. The purpose of the Steamship Authority is to service the islands, and so the 2 island representatives, Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket, have 35% votes. Hyannis, New Bedford, and Falmouth have 10% votes. However, since the New Bedford and Falmouth representatives are now women, I think the conversation is more than 50%. Next. Okay, just a little bit about the Steamship Authority by the numbers. There are 5 port towns, Woods Hole, Hyannis, Vineyard Haven, Oak Bluffs, and Nantucket. And then there's a 6th town where steamship vessels go now, and that's the Fairhaven Maintenance Facility. Right now, the Steamship Authority has 9 vessels, and in late April, early May, we're expecting the 10th vessel, which will be the MV Woods Hole. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. I just, you can, this is just taking a picture off my computer, but the red circles are at 2:12 on 16th of December. those are steamship vessels. There's one at the Fairhaven, and if you look at the circles, there are only 7 circles. 2 of the boats are in dry dock. Next. Okay, just to give you an idea how the steamship works, and most of you probably know this, but I know a lot of people in town don't know it because they say, well, you get a lot of money from the state, don't you? The Steamship Authority gets no money from the state. All of the steamship, everything that the steamship has to run on comes from revenue, from passengers, vehicles, and parking. And one of the policy decisions, and it has to be balanced out every year, every couple of years, is that each leg, that is Woods Hole to Martha's Vineyard or Hyannis to Nantucket, pays its share. So Nantucket's further away, but a lot fewer vessels and individuals go there. But this is the split of revenue, 56.7% from the Martha's Vineyard run and 43.3% for Nantucket. What happens to that money? Well, more than 50% goes to wages and benefits of the operating cost. Other operations, fuel, repairs, and so forth. There's a whole series. Early on, I had Steamship 101, and I recently went in for 102 after a few months trying to get a sense of actually what's happening. But then there's a replacement fund. Some of the money goes into capital projects. Many of the capital projects are funded by bonds, and obviously the bonds have to be paid back. And so that's the operation split for these numbers are from 2014. Next. Okay, this is the average revenue. I'm going to take this off now. Average revenue. The Martha's Vineyard, so I have 8 miles to Martha's Vineyard, 30 miles from Hyannis to Nantucket. I did that by dividing number of miles that the boats went versus number of trips. And these are the costs. And you try to make them fairly equal, and this is why every few years you have to reevaluate these so that each route pays its fair share. Next. The other thing that happened, you appointed me in March, and I'm told that I have fiduciary responsibility. And the steamship has to run for 12 months out of the year. And when I got appointed, we were $10 million in debt on an annual basis. And I said, well, I don't quite get this. And they said, well, wait. As the summer season comes and the boats get more full, then you'll go into the positive. So the break-even point is around July. And then you go on. This year, when we look at passenger numbers, this year passenger numbers are going to go up, not because the summer numbers have gone up, because the boats are full, have been full the last couple of months, just because it's beautiful weather. Next. Just to give you a perspective of the Steamship Authority in Falmouth, Steamship Authority has 695 employees with total wages, and this doesn't count benefits, just total wages, $30.5 million. 226 are Falmouth residents. This is 2014. That's 33% with a $9.9 million wages. The steamship is one of the largest employers in Falmouth. And there are many steamship retirees in Falmouth. The steamship also pays embarkation fees to Falmouth. It's collected by the Steamship Authority, paid to Falmouth, and these embarkation fees are supposed to be in a special fund and used to mitigate the effects of the steamship on the town. $355,000 were given to Falmouth in 2014, and $3.5 million over the past 10 years.
Question, is that 25 cents per passenger?
50 cents per
50
passenger.
cents per passenger.
Yeah. Next. Okay, one of the big issues, this is what people even not in Woods Hole talk about, but is the traffic. And so what I've given is the 2005 and the 2014 figures. And when I say percent increase, that's just between 2005 and 2014. So passengers, it's a 9% increase. Automobiles and trucks less than 20 feet, it was a 6.8% increase. Trucks greater than 20 feet, it was a 3.5% increase. However, you should also note that if you look for those from 1991 to the present, the highest passenger count was like 2000, 2001, 2002. The highest trucks over 20 feet was 2007. And it's nice to be able to break automobiles and trucks less than 20 feet, but next, I think it's the next slide that I have. The problem is the classification of trucks and automobiles changed. So in this graph, the pink on the top are trucks over 20 feet. And the blue and the yellow represent cars and trucks less than 20 feet. And next. Okay, again, I know you've seen these recently. Passengers carried between Woods Hole and Martha's Vineyard. You see 1999, 2000, 2001, 2002 is the highest. Then there was a dip, then it goes up, and I wouldn't be surprised if that value went up this year. Next. And this is total vehicles. This is blue represents the summer, and red represents the rest of the year. You see, the number hasn't changed that much in the summer the last 10 years, but it's been gradually increasing the rest of the year. Next. Okay, I just want to update you on a few Falmouth-related projects. Thomas B. Landers, you probably don't even think this is a project that needs an update, but the reason it needs an update is that they have a special, they built it so that it would have permeable surface with the hopes that it would handle a 5-inch storm. Well, it doesn't handle a 5-inch storm. And so they've gone through 2 iterations now trying to correct this, and it's still not to what was promised. And so this is an ongoing, it's between the engineer, the contractor, and also they're doing additional soil borings for it. That will get corrected, but this is an ongoing project still. Palmer Lot. Anybody who wants to rent a car or get a zip car, that's a facility where you can do it now.
Whether you're a steamship authority customer or not.
Right. Anybody can. It's a rental car lot. New private carrier capacity. Recently, we just authorized licenses with Highline for the Hyannis to Martha's Vineyard route, and Seastreak has the New Bedford to Martha's Vineyard route. Both of them had these routes, but both of them will have larger vessels. And in the case of, well, in both cases, they'll be high-speed vessels. So in the summer last year, they carried about 5% of the passengers to Martha's Vineyard, and they'll have the potential to carry more. In addition, this doesn't directly relate to Falmouth, but Seastreak also has a new, but you might have people who are interested in this, also will have a new route starting next year from New Bedford to Nantucket. Woods Hole Terminal reconstruction, the Steamship Authority is in the process of working on permits for that. The MV Woods Hole, I said, is due the end of April. Hopefully it'll be here by the beginning of May, beginning or middle of May. There is one thing that I'm excited about because I'm working with Jennifer Gaines at the Woods Hole Historical Museum and Wayne Lamson of the Steamship Authority If any of you have been on the island home, it has historical panels mainly of Martha's Vineyard, and the MV Woods Hole will have a series of panels and pictures of the history of Woods Hole and Woods Hole in relation to the Steamship Authority. And eventually, we're working on similar kind of displays in the new terminal. The new terminal reconstruction, if all the permitting goes as planned, will begin September of next year. Okay, but what Doug really wants to hear about is alternatives for freight between Woods Hole and Martha's Vineyard. And I just wanted to give you the perspective in terms that cost does make a difference. However, despite the naysayers out there, I actually think that there are ways that this can be done. Next.
Before we go to the freight, just on the private carrier capacity,
Yeah,
will those be passengers only, or will that be cars also?
that's passenger only.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when they talk about the passengers, the number of passengers not going up, is that saying, you know, when they keep saying the number of passengers on through Falmouth aren't going to go up.
Right.
So that's not saying, oh, but you're going to lose some to the Hyannis Martha's Vineyard than to the private carriers. They're saying the passengers are still going to go up a little bit, even though they may have some people funneled off. So the total number of passengers by the vineyard is going to go up considerably if you have new private carriers, and the current ones are going to increase also.
Well, here, I asked Wayne the question, is there ever a time that a passenger can't get over to the island in the summertime? And he said, no. There's room for passengers.
Okay.
What's the limiting factor in the summertime is how many vehicles can go over.
Okay.
And I know at one point, early on, I was thinking, oh, well, maybe it'd be fun to take a trip to Nantucket in the summertime. And he said, well, you can talk to Gina, but he said, those spaces have been booked solid for several months already. This is to Nantucket. But it's hard to get a space. It's hard to get a space to Martha's Vineyard in the summer also.
For a car.
For a car, right.
Thank you.
Yeah, next. Okay, again, just to give you the perspective, so it's more or less 30 miles from Hyannis to Nantucket. It's 8 miles for a trip. Remember, some trips go to Vineyard Haven and some go to Oak Bluffs. And then we're talking about service from New Bedford to Martha's Vineyard, probably to Vineyard Haven. And again, and there's a question whether it would go through Woods Hole or would go through Quicks Hole. Next. Okay, I sent you the 14-page memo, but this is these are the questions that come to my mind. First of all, would it be private or steamship authority? And we already do have passenger service. Maybe there would be a private service who would like to have not only passengers, but trucks and cars. Potential for trash barges. This is actually something that's being actively pursued now, and started off a couple of months. I think it started years ago, but it actively started again a couple of months ago when we had a meeting at Martha's Vineyard. The Oak Bluffs and Vineyard Haven representatives to the Port Council are very much in favor of trying to, those two towns create half the trash on Martha's Vineyard. They also would like to get the other 4 towns and the 100% of the trash and get a system where you can bale the trash on Martha's Vineyard, put it on a barge, and packers' barges bring materials over to Martha's Vineyard, but they go home empty. And this would be, so for that segment of what we now have as garbage trucks coming across, if this works out, then that would take care of it. when this came up the other day, the Martha's Vineyard representative was very in favor of pursuing this. You know, let's put our energies here. And I said, yeah, that's great, it's win-win all the way around. But let's not stop there. You know, we've got a little bit of momentum. Let's try other, let's look into other options. So one, and I think was done in the past, and this came up in a meeting, they had a private freight carrier. But one of the issues was that freight carrier would leave Martha's Vineyard empty. There were no trucks on it. But there are a lot of cars waiting to get off the island. And they're like, hey, you know, why can't we go off on it? And personally, we'll see how it comes out, but personally I think it would be better to have a full-service carrier. And I'm going to just skip down to here. And then there's a question if it's licensing a private carrier, do we work together with reservations, and can there be reciprocal reservations? So if somebody does get to the dock in Vineyard Haven and says, okay, well, it costs more to go out to New Bedford, but I'll pay the difference, but some of the money would go back to the Steamship Authority. So there are all different ways these can be worked out. And another big issue is that if with my steamship hat, if we were to have a vessel that went to New Bedford, the steamship would have to have an entirely new ground crew in New Bedford, which they don't have now. And exactly where they land is something that would have to be worked out. On the other hand, if a private carrier is going back and forth, are they going to be using steamship dock facilities on the islands? So there are a lot of questions. And another big question, of course, is it's going to be a seasonal or year-round. As you saw from the graph, it's a big money loser to have these boats in the wintertime. That said, people on the islands having lived on an island, you definitely want to be able to get off. So there are lots of questions that are coming. I actually think this is an exciting challenge, and I think some of the others do. Certainly Maura Tierney from New Bedford is excited. That gives us a 20% vote. But I think the others are interested. And I definitely think the administration is interested. Next. Before I take questions, I told Doug I'd mention something else, which of course I forgot right in the beginning. I do want to thank you for appointing me for this. Despite people coming up and saying, how can you stand that? That must be worse than conservation. I actually really enjoy this. And one of the things that I've found really interesting, and you all know me well enough that I say, I don't mind if anybody comes up with ideas, but I don't want to just hear complaints. People come up and they have positive suggestions, and we can work together to make something better. And the 9 months that I've been on, there have been a number of issues that have come up on all the different towns. And the Steamship Authority really does try to work to solve these issues. And one of the current issues is noise from trucks backing up and idling for the early morning ferry. This was brought to my attention. I responded a little bit, and then we actually had a meeting with the Steamship Authority. And idling, signs for idling, they're working on improving that, not just in Woods Hole, but in every port facility. I just heard before I came here, I got an email that there'll be another meeting to further discuss how these conflicts, and there are conflicts in any situation like this, can be mitigated. And the Steamship Authority, I believe, really makes an honest effort to work together with the communities and the neighbors where there's some conflicts. Now, any questions?
I very much appreciate that when they talked about the trash barge, you said don't stop there. Because I'm not sure how much, I think it'd be great to have the trash barge. I'm not sure how much of our freight issue that reduces.
Yeah, I'm not either. Actually, I'm gonna find that out. I mean, I was thinking today when I was going over that, it's like, well, how many trash trucks are there?
Right.
Yeah. There's another little catch though, and this came up in our discussion. Someone was complaining about big trucks. And I said, yeah, there are trucks that are up to 60 feet. But remember that whatever's in that truck, they want on the other side. So if there isn't one 60-foot truck, there are probably going to be two 40-foot trucks. So suppose we were able to get some of the freight out of New Bedford, let's say it's an average of 80 trucks a day in the summertime. Suppose we could get 20 of those trucks. That means we'd probably have 60 to 70 more cars on the road. I mean, those spaces aren't going to be, those boats aren't going to go with empty spaces.
That's what worries me.
But there's no plan for any additional boats sailing. And if some of the freight
and the question I wish that Wayne and Steve could say, we have no plans and we won't do it. And that's what they said. They could not come up with any agreement that we will not increase. They said we have no plans to, but they've said they have no plans for 5 years not to increase a bunch of things, and they always do. And I wish that they would put it in writing, saying, not only do we not have plans, we will not increase the number of boats. We will not increase our capacity. If they stay with the capacity and they stay there, I would feel much more comfortable, even though I still think it's too much. But it's with that third slip, it is the potential for growth that is there that scares me. And they can't do anything about that because they will not say, we will not grow.
I can tell you, I saw what I voted on the schedules for next year, and there are not going to be any more boats.
Great. Rebecca?
Betsy, as I read through this, and it's exactly what you had here, I'm going to look probably the last, maybe starting on page 6 or 7. It seemed to me as if every idea that was suggested to the Steamship Authority, there was always a reason why they couldn't. So as I read each one of these questions, this is very negative thinking because they just go, I don't know, this is a draft, so I was very curious where all this information came from.
Well, that was a draft to us.
To you, okay.
Yeah.
So,
from the administration.
well, that's just exactly what it seemed like. Because every time there was an idea, there were 5 reasons why you couldn't, or they would have to look into it.
Well, I think if everybody thinks that it's not going to work, it won't work. I don't believe it's not going to work. Maura Tierney doesn't believe it's not going to work.
But Betsy, they have written this much why it won't work, or what we have to do to get it to work, or how much we have to go through.
There is a lot. I'm telling you that for next summer, there won't be freight out of New Bedford. There's a lot of work that goes into this, a lot of financial analysis that has to go into it.
Well, this can't be a new idea to them. This didn't just happen in 2015. They certainly have had to think about, they started with freight and they opened it up and they got it started in 2005 or whatever it was. It isn't anything brand new. And it isn't any new ideas from any of the people in town. People talk about this and it should happen. If you read this, you'll be up to 2025 before any of this happens. It's just dreadful to me. There's just a reason, line after line, why you can't do that. And I think the major thing, somewhere the Steamship Authority should think about, is how much traffic comes over that Bourne Bridge and through Falmouth in order to do the only thing the Steamship Authority is offering them is to go to Falmouth with their trucks or their cars or the people.
I can tell you that there's a certain amount of traffic, it hasn't increased appreciably in 10 years, that's going on the ferry. My bet is, if you talk to the businesses in Woods Hole, not in Woods Hole, but on Main Street, my bet is in the last 5 years, the businesses are 30% more busy. And what do we do about that? We don't go downtown to eat in the summertime. We wait until the off-season, when it's busy, it's kind of fun to go out, but you can get a table. So it's not just the Steamship Authority that's increasing the traffic in town.
But
Well, the next,
there is a 10% increase you've talked about, and I think what most people in town are concerned with is that traffic in Route 28, the Palmer Ave traffic, that is the steamship.
I talked about a 6.8% increase of cars in the last 10 years, of cars and trucks less than 20 feet, and a 3.5% increase in trucks over 20 feet. But the highest truck over 20 feet was 2007. The highest number of passengers went in 2002.
But what the people in Falmouth feel, and whether the numbers support it or not, but what they believe and feel is the traffic on Route 28 at those lights at the intersection where the Steamship Authority lot is worse this year and last year than it was before, and it's getting worse every year.
Well,
and maybe that's anecdotal.
But if you look at the state traffic versus the last 10 years, the average of the last 10 years, and 2014, that's the only data I have. Those are the only data I have. It hasn't changed.
I just want to follow up, just one of your statements was that there were as many people going in 2002.
Mm-hmm.
Well, where did they park? Where did the people park if there were as many people as we've had in the last year or two?
Probably on the streets of Falmouth, that's why. And they had other parking lots. They had Gifford Street parking lot, they parked in the high school, they parked at Cottawment. So there were other parking lots, and the idea was to consolidate those parking lots, get them in a place that it was easier to get down to the Steamship Authority so you wouldn't have to use Gifford Street.
So,
one thing that I'm very interested in that you brought up was mitigation, because if you look at any, substantial business, a lot can happen on the margins that has a true effect. And so the part of your presentation that I was most interested in are the fact that the discussion has been turned to all of these issues. And, I did see a lot of disagreement, which I think is the way, that's what happens at board meetings. Things are discussed. One person, offers an idea, another person might disagree or might offer another one. And I saw a lot of that in terms of the steamship being, having a fiduciary duty, as you say, to serve the islands and to provide transportation for people. They've got, no other major way to get to the islands. But it is a business. It has to operate in a healthy manner. And some of the things that you brought up, and the caution was, that those are good, creative ideas. They've been looked at in the past. They should be looked at again. But also the fact that, the steamship still has to operate in an economically healthy manner. And so in other words, what I'm saying is it looks like it's a balancing act here.
Do you know what happens if it doesn't?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, if
we pay.
If the Steamship Authority goes into the red, we pay according to what our voting privileges are. And so I don't think we as a town want to pay. I think we want to develop something.
The mitigation strategies.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think it would be interesting to hear, I don't know how many reports you do in a year, if it's one or two, but maybe, from, before the summer comes, maybe April or May or so, we could have an update on some of these mitigation ideas, just to see how it's progressing, because I think that's exactly what you've got to do. You've got to, there are limitations, and so you've got to look at the margins and see if you can have an effect.
Yeah, I actually am very optimistic that there can be a solution, but it's going to take months of study, and a lot of things are going to have to be cast aside because they're not practical. And then, you know, what are the most feasible ways to do it? How can we do it? How can it be made economically feasible? And, you know, so as not to place a burden on the 5 towns that are representative on the board.
Okay.
In the last 10 years, have there been additional boats that were added for passenger traffic to the vineyard? Or are they the same?
The island home has been added, right?
Boats or trips?
Boats.
Both. Well, I should say trips, because I think what I see is steamship traffic, I mean, like almost every hour on the hour if you go in town. It didn't used to be that way. You used to be able to tell, oh, it's 4:45, so it's the boat from the vineyard. But now, it seems like every time you go in town.
Well, I doubt there are more trips because these boats can only carry so many vehicles and so many people.
Yeah.
And it hasn't
I'm just
increased.
thinking cars, not so much freight.
Yeah.
But it just appears to be that
I
there are
can
more
get you the
boats
information.
running.
I can get you the information, but I doubt that there are that many more because these boats are full to, in the summertime at least, full to capacity.
Well, I just meant maybe more boats running as opposed, I don't know. It just seems like they're running more. But the other question I had was, the revenues from the passengers and the revenues from freight. Do you have, do you get those numbers separated out?
Yeah, I gave it to you, separated out.
I mean, dollars, in terms of dollars.
Yeah, well, I gave you the average cost of passengers and the average cost.
No, but I meant the revenue that the steamship gets from, say, the amount of freight that goes over each year and the amount of passengers. Is there?
Can you go back to that one?
Yeah, I don't
Thanks,
remember
Heather.
seeing that.
It was like
you
slide
remember
3,
it?
slide 3 or 4.
It was just the numbers, not the.
No, back,
Yeah, I just meant.
back, there. So
Oh,
this
that's
is the
for
average
vehicle.
cost.
I meant total.
Total.
Yeah, but you
Total
could
amount.
average, you could multiply this times the total number of vehicles.
Yeah, I suppose I could.
Yeah, I guess you could.
I mean,
Is it
yes,
possible,
yes, we have those
Okay.
numbers.
is it
And
possible
you could get the numbers too.
I could, yeah.
that we could ever see a finance report from the Steamship Authority?
You can
How,
see,
how much is in bonds that they have in
you
money?
you can
How-
see that anytime you
Yeah.
want. In fact, you were given a 2014 annual report
In this?
No, not
this
when-
package.
No.
Oh, it's on,
Yeah.
when it came
A
out.
month ago.
and
so.
has the Steamship Authority ever been in the red?
In the, you might know, perhaps, I believe in the early 1960s,
Oh,
and not since
Okay.
then.
So that's 40, 50, that's 55
More
years.
than 50 years.
Okay, and in that period of time, it still held over our head that they could go into the red and the town would have to pay. It's still
in-
that,
it's in the
that negative.
legislation.
It's in the legislation.
And that's the next sentence they always say.
But what Rebecca's saying is, it's the threat.
It's
They
a
keep
threat,
putting
yeah.
up- Even though
Continuously.
they made $10 million last year in profit.
Right,
We're still threatened.
exactly.
Oh,
That's
you gotta be
exactly.
careful because
That's
if they run the red, you're gonna have to pay for it.
Well, just
let's see
think,
what
we could be
actually
the
happens.
MBTA and have red line cars that are way out of date, and the newest possible ones they could get is like 10 years from now.
And why would
This
you
is a
tell
bit-
us that?
Because this is a business that's been run in a fiscally responsible way, that's why.
But then you say, yes, and then the town will pay if we go in the red.
Sam, you want to.
It's,
Yeah, in the area of mitigation of impact, you've mentioned that you're working to get rid of some of the backup beeping that goes on and some of the idling. What about the jake brake use when these trucks are heading down that hill?
Okay,
toward Little Harbor?
let me address
Because
let me
that's-
address the Jake brake.
Okay, I get a lot of complaints from people that live along Woods Hole Road.
Okay, we cannot actually, we ask the trucks not to use their Jake brakes. We cannot tell them not to use the Jake brakes because Jake brakes are safety features. So a letter goes out, and a letter will be going out to all the firms about, no idling, that's a state law, no idling for more than 5 minutes. please refrain from using Jake brakes, but we can't tell them not to use it. I can tell you that in this meeting that we had, Kevin, who was down there at 5 in the morning, said he was there, he heard a Jake brake, a truck came in, he went up, he said, you should be slowing down before you get to the point where you need a Jake brake. So that's how they're trying to do it. The people who work on the ground crew there are addressing those. If somebody has their truck idling, they'll go up to them, they'll say, you have to turn your truck off. And as far as beeping, there's one boat that's being used now that you have to back onto for the early boat. The governor, which is usually on that, is that you drive on, and most of the time that will be on. I can't promise that there'll never be any backing up, but it's going to be as minimal as possible.
Just to add to that, because I inquired as well, and the state was approached by the steamship to see if they could assist in enforcing the no Jake brakes, and for safety reasons, the state effectively refused. So that's part of the reason that it's a problem.
Yeah, it's a safety issue. The truck should be, all vehicles should be slower when they're going down that hill.
Right.
But they're not.
Well, I do hope you understand that we appreciate the work you're doing, your response to them saying trash, said keep going beyond that. I think the feeling of our board is, oh yeah, really, really do everything you can to push for more freight, whether it's using Packers and it's private freight, or whether it's steamship running freight, but freight through New Bedford is what the Falmouth Board of Selectmen, and if you want to, we can take a vote to give you the message. You can go back to the board saying that the Board of Selectmen is behind that.
Just a comment, I'd like to phrase it a little broader and just say mitigating factors, so that just allows more options, or maybe make it part of it.
I think,
I understand what you were saying. I don't quite understand what Sue's saying.
Well,
I'm happy to bring back any message you want me to bring back.
You had a slide and you said these are mitigating factors, so I used your term, whether it was finding out how many trash trucks there are and trying to put them on a boat, in other words, mitigating the effects on Falmouth, whether it's for traffic, for pollution, for Jake brakes, for backup noise, anything that will mitigate those things that are, complained about in Falmouth.
Well, I bring that back all the time, because when people complain to me, I complain to the steamship administration. So rest assured that I bring those back immediately. But also, I think, Doug, you'd like me to bring back to the board as a whole, the other authority members, that this is something that Falmouth is taking very seriously. And
Well, I guess I would like to make a motion that we are in support of increasing freight, or moving as much freight as possible to New Bedford. And I'd like to see if the board agrees with me on
I
that.
would second. I would make the motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
All those in favor of that?
Aye.
But, and it had,
Okay, Pat first.
well, it has another impact too on the bridge. I mean, if there's, I don't know the percentage of traffic, freight traffic that comes over the bridge, and some of it that originates from Falmouth. But I would think that if it originated here, it had to come over the bridge to get here in the first place.
no,
No?
no,
Not
there are a lot
necessarily.
of trucks that come over from here.
Right.
And I can find that out
No,
for
but
you.
I mean, the materials that they have probably have to come over the bridge to get them here, is what I'm saying. I mean, they're
I
not coming
suppose,
by
yeah.
train.
We're kind of an island.
Yeah, I know, in a way we are.
And I
But
can't see
the other,
that.
I think, the state is working on is what are they gonna do about the bridges? I mean, are they gonna build a new bridge? Are they gonna put lanes onto the bridge? We've already had 2 meetings about that over the last year, and that's the whole idea. But if there are ways in which some of the traffic that comes over the bridge such as freight traffic to the islands, could be diverted. That would help a lot, I would think, in reducing, especially in the summertime.
Right, but I'll tell you, it definitely won't be all the freight traffic,
No,
because
no.
there's a lot of Falmouth and
Yes.
Upper Cape
Like
businesses.
Cranes sends a
Crane
lot.
sends stuff, wood lumber sends stuff.
You'd be then sending trucks back over the bridge to get to New Bedford. I mean, it would
Building
be-
Exactly.
It would be idiotic to suggest
Right,
that, but.
right, and that's all, and that's, you know, so the question for the Steamship Authority is, so we just went through this exercise a change in policy as to how you classify a frequent shipper. And it used to be somebody who shipped, I can't remember, I think it was once every 2 weeks, and now we've changed it 3 times a week. And if you're a frequent shipper, you can get your slots earlier. You know, there's a queue as to when you can get slots. And, but I could probably find out sort of, I mean, you know, we have the list of shippers and how many are local and how many aren't. But the question is, how then, so if you're a frequent shipper, then you're probably going to get, and you're local, then you're going to get your slots. But the problem is, how do you allocate slots for somebody who isn't a frequent shipper, but he's a local shipper? And it's just what you say, you don't want them driving all the way around.
Well, I guess I would hope they would reconsider the frequent shipper as their priority, because it's then gonna be, well, let's ship more often because there's a benefit to it, even if it isn't necessarily a full load. But that gives us a little more of a priority, as opposed to say, actually, instead of rewarding you for shipping frequently, we'd actually reward you for shipping less. That we're all in favor of actually less freight, less shipping, but there's a system in place that rewards more shipping.
No, but I mean, the same amount of materials are gonna go over, and remember that the big cost for the shippers, and this is another thing that I didn't bring up, but obviously the people who are on the boats, the boat crews, have very strict time limits. The truck time limits are even stricter. And so, like going out to Nantucket, if you go with your truck, you're sleeping 2 hours over and 2 hours back, but that's considered work time.
Yeah, well, don't.
Don't?
No, have a driver on.
Well, they do have, a lot of, Nantucket has that, but not so much on the Vineyard.
But if there's New Bedford as the freight, it would make sense to also add that also.
Unless it's a fast ferry. And there are fast ferries that can carry vehicles.
And I do want to acknowledge that what you've stated is if we do move more freight to New Bedford, we'll be adding more passenger cars to Falmouth.
Maybe.
That's very likely to happen. And
Not necessarily.
We need to be prepared for,
but-
if we get what we ask for, be prepared for what may become because of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm just laying it out.
Yeah.
If you take a 60-foot truck off the ferry, you're gonna be replacing it, or off the road, you're gonna be replacing it with two 40-foot trucks.
Do you know if the Vineyard has reached build-out yet? I often wondered if they, no? Catherine says no.
So here's what I was told. I was over on a conservation issue to see a restoration project over there. A third of their land is an open space. A third of their land is built out. And a third of their land is kind of up for grabs.
Wow.
But, you know, right now, that's very expensive land, and the people who have that very expensive land want it right now. So who knows what'll happen?
Okay.
I cannot predict the future.
Tim?
Well, I just want to thank Betsy for really just digging into all the details, because I think the only way that we can really advocate for mitigating some of the problems that we are experiencing here in Falmouth is if you understand how the Steamship Authority operates and look for those opportunities where we can mitigate the impacts. So I thank you. I mean, for the time you've been on the authority, it seems like you've really gotten your arms around an awful lot of it, and I certainly trust that you will be advocating on our behalf.
Yeah, I definitely will. And Sue told me that Falmouth is a special place. When I said everybody has everybody has traffic problems. Everybody has noise problems at the terminal. And Sue said, but Falmouth is special. Well, I can assure you, all the other authority members point out to me that New Bedford's special, Hyannis is special, Oak Bluffs is special, and so is Vineyard Haven.
I think you're special enough to make sure we're well attended.
We do a motion and a second to Lisa to support what Betsy's been doing to increase the amount of freight going through New Bedford.
Yes.
I will move that with many thanks to Betsy for
Yeah, and
all
I'll
her work.
let you know and set a time with you, Doug, for an update.
Great.
I mean, I hope there's not going to be a solution. I can guarantee that there will not be a solution by April or early May.
But there will be a solution.
There will be a solution, and there'll be an update.
Right.
That'd be great.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Thank you very much, Betsy.
Thanks, Betsy.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Merry Christmas.
Would you like to make any comment on Betsy's report?
Catherine Bumpus, co-president of the Woods Hole Community Association, and I'll be very, very brief because I took notes. Thank you, Betsy. Betsy has been wonderful to have at Steamship. She's willing to talk, she's willing to get her hands into things, and it's been terrific. I did make a couple notes as she was talking and you guys had questions, because I still have in my bag the budget summary from October. The revenue breakdown was until October for year to date for Steamship was $27 million in auto revenue, 22.5 million in freight, and almost 29 million in passenger revenue. So it's broken out pretty evenly. There are a couple of other things. The embarkation fee is only charged for certain tickets, which is about 2/3 of them. The multi-passenger books don't pay an embarkation fee, and the excursion rates don't pay an embarkation fee. That helps, the embarkation fee helps offset costs for Falmouth. Steamship also owns quite a lot of property in Falmouth that they don't pay any taxes on. So whether or not we're in a better off position is a question, but the embarkation fee certainly helps. Summer passengers, one of the things you have to look at is how you define summer passengers. If you look at just July and August, you haven't seen an increase. Martha's Vineyard Commission defines summer as June, July, August, and June, July, and August, I guess. And they have seen an increase in that over a number of years. I think in Woods Hole, we've started calling the terminal expansion an expansion, not just a reconstruction, because it's clearly an expansion, and it will give them the ability to move more boats. One of the conversations that we had with early morning freight was that they actually couldn't push the time later for that early morning freight boat because then they'd end up with conflicts in the slips later on. That will not be a problem when they have 3 slips. So that is something, it really is an increase. The other thing that, while the schedule hasn't changed that much, though the 5:30 boat was added in 2011, which is a rub point, definitely for the neighbors because it's such an early morning boat. When you hear the Jake breaks at 4:45 in the morning, it's a little different than hearing them at 3 in the afternoon. One of the things that comes up in the Steamship reports on a regular basis is trips over budget, which are trips that were not on the schedule that were run to get people back and forth. So they're there. Becky, your point about the report on freight, Rob Munier at the Port Council meeting said, it would be really nice if this wasn't a foregone conclusion that it won't work. Rob is our Port Council rep from Falmouth. And the discussion was sort of, well, it kind of is a foregone conclusion that it won't work, but we'll try. It was a more positive discussion at the board meeting than at the Port Council meeting, but there was a similar reaction from our Port Council rep. And another traffic issue that people have been seeing is the increased capacity at Palmer has definitely, you've noticed that at the hospital lights, because there are more people coming to park here at Palmer than elsewhere. It does make Steamship's process easier where they only have to go buses to certain places, but we are seeing a greater volume right here in town. So those are my points, and I'm happy to talk about it anytime.
Anyone else have any comments on it? Mr.
Thank
Finley?
you.
Yeah, Mark Finneran, Precinct 6. This is all basically a business decision. And what you're, I mean, by this chart here, you can say that you can see that I hate to be the one to wipe the lipstick off the pig again, but it's really probably won't work. Because what you're essentially asking is to change the trip to Nantucket, up to Martha's Vineyard. If you come from New Bedford, you essentially make it like a trip to Nantucket. So that adds $170 per truck. Plus a minimum of another 3 hours for an employee. That's another $100 minimum with benefits, just thumbnail. And as she stated, some of their frequent flyers, for want of a better term, are coming 3 times a week. If you own a truck, you're trying to run a business, and somebody presents you with an opportunity to spend another $810 a week to get to the same place and do the same thing, how many takers do you really think you're going to have? I'd say next to zero. Thanks.
Any other comments? Thank you. Next item on our agenda is we have a request to submit an application to the Conservation Commission for permission to place erosion control on town land between 263 Great Bay Street and 37 Picasso Street. Mr. Borselli?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Michael Borselli from Falmouth Engineering, and I am joined tonight by Seth Wilkinson of Wilkinson Ecological Design. We're here tonight on a very preliminary basis to get your authority to allow us to submit an application known as a notice of intent application to the Conservation Commission to do some work related to erosion control on land owned by the town of Falmouth. I have a handout. This is just a GIS map, a portion
Thank you.
of the town where we're proposing to do this. It's an area that's highlighted in red on this GIS map. And that area in red represents about 200 linear feet along the western shoreline of Great Pond.
You getting the lights back on?
So the western shoreline of Great Pond from the southerly end near to Minot Road and then all heading north has different sections where the landform, which is a coastal bank sloping down from the Mira Vista residential area to the shores of Great Pond, there are sections in there that are experiencing erosion. And I'm quite sure you've probably individually received calls or complaints from neighbors in that area about it. I know that the town engineer, Pete McConaughey, certainly has. In fact, there's actually sections of the roadway that runs along and meanders along the top of the coastal bank that are now not even open to vehicles and only foot traffic because of safety concerns and the potential for further erosion. So we represent the Curry family that own a property at 263 Great Bay Street. If you look on the map, you can see a big 263 right at the intersection of Boston Street and Great Bay. And they also own a property on Pocasset Street right next door. This section is probably 4 or 5 streets up from Minot Road heading north on the east side. So it's basically right at the very end of Boston Street. So the Curry family has become concerned about the erosion to the point that they want to fund a fix, at least in front of this stretch. And it runs basically in front of their properties where there's active erosion, southerly to a small town-owned parking lot where people that have moorings might park their cars and then go by dinghy out to their moorings. And that parking lot is actually in tough shape due to erosion as well. So there's several steps. This is like this is probably the second step. I mean, we've surveyed the property, we've consulted with Wilkinson. We have an attorney that would represent us along the way, because we'd have to come back to you. We would need a license from you to do this work on town land, but it's even too early to do that. If we can't get through conservation with a valid order of conditions, we're very confident we can, but we still have to do that before it makes sense to really talk much more in real detail. But I can tell you generally what we're trying to do, and Seth's here to just talk about it in a little bit more detail. We're proposing to do a soft solution. I think there was something here earlier where the term core log was mentioned. Attorney Brybold was here. We're proposing core logs, or a so-called soft solution, versus a riprap armoring of this coastal bank, because it's frowned upon by Conservation Commission. Soft solutions are a better result, a better solution in a lot of cases. Seth's firm has had a lot of success in this core log soft solution application, and this site seems to be a good candidate for it. So we would be submitting an application on behalf of our client as applicant in the town of Falmouth as the property owner, if you, as a board, could vote to authorize us to submit the application. With that, I'll turn it over to Seth so he can just talk about a little bit about what we're proposing for the actual.
Before you go, there may be a few questions for you. I know I have two. Rebecca?
Would you, as I'm looking at this map, will you tell me where Route 28 is? At the top or the bottom here?
Oh, it's at the top. North is at the top of the page. So this is Mara Vista Avenue.
This is Mara Vista going toward...
Going north.
North to Route 28.
And we're at the very bottom, probably first 20%. We haven't even gone to the...
So if you're at Route 28, it would be this way?
Yes.
This is
so
better for me.
We're almost at, we orient maps with north straight up. So
Yes.
Yes, so.
Yes.
Right, so you're.
So if I'm on Mara Vista and I'm going away from Route 28.
You're gonna get almost to Minot Road and it'll be on your left-hand side.
I know where it is now. I just couldn't do it this way.
I guess my two questions are not exactly the same, but similar. That we also had a request from the perch pond owners wanting to put dredgings.
Yes.
Is that north of where?
Yes, that is north of here. But that brings up an interesting maybe co-interest. We may be considering some beach nourishment as part of this project, and this might be a candidate if it's feasible. It's a little further away than we may like to transport sand, but it might be an opportunity there might be a beach nourishment opportunity here as well.
And the closing of Great Bay is also north of this spot, right? Where the rocks are it's right now blocked off, part of Great Bay is blocked off.
Oh, yes, the closing, yes.
That's north
That's
also.
further north, yes. Well, actually, this section is closed off by rocks as well.
That's what I thought. I thought it was from
Yeah.
Boston to Pecasset up, so.
But there are some other sections, I believe, that are also
Okay.
closed off.
So it's right in that area, okay.
Yes.
And so again, this process is again that we are giving permission to start the process. It will come back to, it'll come back to Concom and then have to come back to, for our approval with the conditions in place of us.
So Seth's here, just to
Seth?
talk about the core log.
Good evening, Seth Wilkinson from Wilkinson Ecological Design. I'll be brief, primarily here to answer questions for you, but the soft alternatives that Mike spoke of are essentially just the use of bioengineering materials, primarily coconut fiber, which is spun into rolls, which is an excellent rooting medium for plants. They're simply there to hold the sediment in place long enough for the plants to get established so that the plants can provide the long-term stability. We all know it's a very dynamic area, the coastline in general, and Great Bay has its share of erosion. So the challenge is you can plant plants on a coastal bank, but then you really have to cross your fingers and hope you don't have any storms before the plants get dislodged. And the fiber rolls provide some initial integrity to the landform so that the plants, it takes years for the plants to fully root in, and we've developed techniques to do that. One of the ways we've sort of jump-started that over the years, and we like to refer to these types of projects as plant-focused bioengineering, because sometimes bioengineering is basically just substituted as like a soft revetment. That's really not what my firm designs. We're really keep front and center that we're creating an area for plants to grow, and everything we do is revolved around that. So to that end, we now pre-vegetate a portion of the fiber rolls so that the day they go in, they actually have plants in them, rather than waiting for them to get colonized over time.
When did they first start getting used?
The first bioengineering projects that I'm aware of were following the no-name storm of '91 on the Cape, and we've been doing it for over a decade. Fiber rolls have been around before the '90s, but it was really an outfit in the greater Boston area called Bioengineering Group, Wendy Goldsmith, who pioneered it and brought it to Massachusetts as far as I understand.
Do they have a lifespan?
Yeah, it varies greatly depending on the maintenance of them, how well they're taken care of. If you just sort of old school ways, just put the fiber rolls out there as if they were a rock revetment or a wooden timber wall and just sort of walk away. It's coconut fiber. The reason it's preferred along the coastline is it resists both saltwater degradation and biological degradation. Really, what breaks it down is ultraviolet sunlight. So that's a good thing. If you think about coconuts, they float around in salt water for a long time, and eventually the sun and the salt break them down. But they far exceed any other natural fiber, and they're not treated with anything. So to answer your question, minimum of around 7 years if they're not covered and left fully exposed and not taken care of. I believe you can get decades out of the fiber rolls if they're well taken care of. And I based that on one of our first fiber roll jobs is a little over a decade old, and I believe it was Sandy or Nemo storm a couple of winters ago, in the fall, or in the spring after that storm season. A little corner of that array got exposed, and it had been completely vegetated and stabilized and covered with sand during the first 9 years of its life. When I saw a corner of it, it looked like a one-year-old fiber roll array. I've also done experiments. I live on a farm, and I've tried to break the coconut fiber down biologically in a very, very hot compost pile. It doesn't. It comes out actually looking better than it goes in. It sort of polishes it. So it is, if you can protect it from sun, it will provide a nice, strong rooting medium for those plants to grow on. I believe for decades. I've given lifetime estimates of sort of 25 to 40 years, depending on the intensity of the storms and how well it's taken care of. It's a big span, I realize.
Rebecca?
I think the problem starts at the very beginning, coming off of Minot, and goes all the way down to Perch Pond. Because if you look at the streets that are coming in on Toledo and Iroquois, and you keep right on going, you are dropping right off. You have that Great Bay Road, and then it just drops off. So the issue is not just on one end of it. It's that whole area. The sand it's all eroded through there. So you're starting part of it, but it's a big job if you do all of it correctly.
I agree. Essentially, the locus here is to go from the gravel parking lot for the beach, the town parking lot, which Mike described, over to an existing revetment, which we believe the town constructed probably in the 60s, predating the Wetland Protection Act and local bylaw. So this is sort of this one neighbor's approach to try to do more than their share of town. And what I neglected to mention is they've also asked us to investigate looking into invasive plant management in the same area at the same time. What we've learned over the years is invasive plants, while they're green, they generally, like bittersweet, have very poor roots for holding sediment together. And so it's best, and we always believe you should look at these sites comprehensively. And if you're trying to establish certain types of native plants which hold the sediments very effectively, you want to also look at threats which could overwhelm or outcompete the native plants you're trying to establish, which also have higher wildlife habitat benefits and other benefits from a conservation perspective. So that's just another aspect of the project that, again, the whole project would come back to you after going through conservation, but we're trying to go through the proper process.
Mr. Patterson?
Yes, I think I mentioned this at our joint meeting with the planning board, but I did and Julian was there as well. I was at the third annual Cape Coastal Conference on managing coastal risk, and one of the things that surfaced out of that day-long seminar was the fact that we have to take a look at what's really important to our culture and what makes Falmouth this place. And these beaches are important, and if we've got a private property owner that's willing to actually invest in protecting something that's both a public good, a parking lot, as well as trying to mitigate some of the erosion damage, I find it hard not to suggest that we should go ahead and support this project moving forward.
You want to make a motion?
I'd consider it a motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? And so the motion is to support the going ahead with this proposal, and we'll see you back after on the next round.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yes, if you'd also turn off the projector, that'd be great.
All right.
So we can turn our lights back on.
You can just pull your stick out and hit the projector, and you'll be all set.
Turn
Far
back
left.
in the middle. I don't think it's on our side.
Front left.
The same lights are on that were on when we started the meeting.
I think it must be turned on over there.
Isn't it on off on the far left? And do it again.
There you go.
Thank you. Okay, next item on our agenda are the annual license renewals. Before we start, I do have one question. We do have one on the all alcohol restaurants, the Captain Kidd, who appealed our suspension. And I'm not sure if it's appropriate to all the other places that we did give a suspension for the underage drinking. We know we suspended, and we know they actually followed through on it. With the Captain Kidd, if the appeal is not upheld, we won't know whether they actually are going to honor the suspension that we have given them. I'm not sure if that's an appropriate thing to wait to see if it happens or not.
I don't think we should withhold their license. I mean, this starts January 1, which is like next week.
Right.
Yeah, I would think. By the way, I happened to read in the newspaper where another town that has a number of violators occasionally, when they had maybe 6 or 7 first-time offenders, they gave them a 2-week suspension. I just thought you'd like to know that. So our one day was really not that bad.
We will have an agenda item talking about a policy on this in the future.
Right.
An upcoming meeting. But I guess my worry is if the ABC does not uphold their appeal and upholds our suspension, we have nothing to hold them to do it. And that's the one thing we actually held.
We can grant the license with that being a condition, that they report, come back to the board in terms of when they're going to serve.
I don't think you condition a license like that. I think they have a right. I mean, they have it. They've followed the proper process. The fact that the state takes so long to have a hearing, it's sometime in January, I don't think we can withhold granting them their next license.
I'm just
Yeah, I
saying
know
we
what you're
ask them
saying.
to come in. I mean, grant the license and ask them to report on.
Well, grant the license, but then ask them to report on we have to attend.
Right.
Somebody from here has to go to the hearing anyway.
And that's in January. I'm planning on being there. I'm just,
Yeah.
what I'm wondering is if ABC upholds our decision.
Mm-hmm.
Then we just come back and set up another date for this coming year. I think that's what we do.
All right.
We just find if they uphold our decision, then we just set another time for them
Exactly.
to serve.
Right.
It'd be remanded to us either way. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for that discussion. So, for all alcohol restaurants, Captain Kidd, 77 Water Street, Grill 500, 500 Wacoit Highway, The Pizza Bar, 145 Sandwich Road, and Simply Divine Pizza Company, 271 Main Street.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. If there's anyone in the audience who'd like to speak on any of these, please hold as I'm reading through them. All Alcohol Club, Falmouth Rod Gun Club at 203 Carrot Shop Road.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Wine and Malt Restaurant, The Paint Bar, 189 Main Street, and Steve's Pizzeria, 374 Main Street.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
I have
Aye.
a question.
Yep.
Excuse me. I thought that when we did the paint bar, it was just wine. It's beer and wine?
There is no such thing as just a wine license.
Correct.
Okay, fine. Okay. All right.
I think they were only talking about serving wine.
Yes.
But
Okay,
It's with
but
the
it's,
licenses.
okay.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Common victual license, The Captain Kidd, 77 Water Street, Coffee Obsession, 110 Palmer Avenue, Coffee Obsession, 38 Water Street, Coonamessett Farm, 277 Hatchville Road, Dunkin' Donuts, 634 Holly Park Road, Dunkin' Donuts, 614 Main Street, Dunkin' Donuts, 202 T-Ticket Highway, Dunkin' Donuts, 363 East Falmouth Highway, Falmouth Hospital Cafeteria, 100 Terhune Drive, Grill 500, 500 Wacoit Highway, Molly's Tea Room, 227 Main Street, Primetime House of Pizza, 286 Old Main Street, Primetime House of Pizza, 338 East Falmouth Highway, Route 121 Drive-In, 557 North Falmouth Highway, Simply Divine Pizza Company, 271 Main Street, Subway Sandwiches, 1337 T-Ticket Highway, Supreme Pizza and Subs, 147 T-Ticket Highway, Talk of the Town Diner, 362 North Falmouth Highway, Thai Kitchen, 258 T-Ticket Highway, The Paint Bar, 189 Main Street, The Pizza Bar, 145 Sandwich Road, Steve's Pizzeria, 374 Main Street.
Move approval.
Second.
Yes.
I believe Route 151 is the driveway on North Falmouth Highway and
Not
not,
121, yep.
instead of 121.
So it's Route 151.
Right.
I hadn't heard of 121. Thank you for that correction.
Yeah, good point.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Entertainment license, Captain Kidd, 77 Water Street, Coonamessett Farm, 277 Hatchville Road, Grill 500, 500 Wacoit Highway, Coffee Obsession, 38 Water Street, Simply Divine Pizza Company, 271 Main Street, and the Pizza Bar, 145 Sandwich Road. I do not know if this includes the 6-day entertainments or the Sunday entertainment licenses. And I will, when they come in and get their licenses, direct that they get that information filled out as to whether it's including it. Our current application lists all 7 days on it, and it's a separate form that is Sunday. So my expectation is this is probably all 7 days.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Class 2 used cars, Battle Used Cars and Trucks, 14 Depot Avenue, Costas Auto Body, 222 Carrot Shop Road, Falmouth Auto Center, 614 East Falmouth Highway, Falmouth Auto Sales, 735 T-Ticket Highway, Falmouth Collision, 318 Dillingham Avenue, Frank's Auto Sales, 442 East Falmouth Highway, Executive Auto, 118 East Falmouth Highway, Rainy Trucking, 9 Hayway Road, Route 28 Auto Center, 550 East Falmouth Highway, Seaside Auto Sales, 14 Nye Road, T-Ticket Auto Body, 108 Trotting Park Road, Wacoit Auto Sales, 506 Wacoit Highway.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, none, ayes have it. Class 3 used cars, Falmouth Salvage, 9 Hayway Road.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Ms. Buffett?
So the Falmouth Salvage and the Rainy Trucking, that's all the same at 9 Haywood Road?
Anyway.
Yep, it's two different kinds of businesses.
Okay. All right.
Motion and second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. And vehicles for hire, Top Notch Limousine, 116 Bernard East St. Jane Drive, Falmouth Taxi, 17 Walker Street, and White Tie Limousine, 292 T-Ticket Highway.
Move approval.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. All right, our next is to announce the dates for the April 2016 annual town meeting. The selectmen announced the annual town meeting on Monday, December 21st, 2015. Close the warrant, Friday, January 15, 2016. Selectmen vote the articles and execute the warrant. Monday, February 8th, 2016. We publish the articles only on Friday, February 12th, 2016. We vote, the selectmen vote recommendations Monday, March 7th, 2016, and we publish the warrant with the recommendations Friday, March 18th, 2016, with town meeting being held on Monday, April 4th, 2016. And that's just an announcement. We don't need to vote on that.
Can I ask you
Yeah.
a question, though, because of the whole question of the venue for town meeting, and trying to give the school committees, school department some notice as to when we want to use their auditoriums and which one we want to use. Can we look forward to?
It's two more agenda items.
Oh, excuse me. But what about the venue for April 4th? Is that going to be Lawrence?
Yes.
Okay, so and we've let the school department know that?
I'll make sure we are informing them of that.
Okay. I just want to make sure we don't have them schedule something in there. We need a place.
And
Okay,
a
thank
lot
you.
of the reason for that is, as you noted, that the Falmouth High School auditorium is not available
Right.
for April, so if you'd like to have a vote that we're actually going to have it at Lawrence School, I made that decision, but.
No, that's fine, as long as we've, let the school administration know that we're going to need Lawrence. Good.
If we take a look at the first quarter of January, February, and March about our meetings, we do have a meeting on January 5th. Then it's scheduled to meet on the 11th and the 25th. The 11th, I hope to invite the chairman of the school committee to come meet with us. And I was thinking about the beach committee, but I think they have a little more work. I'd like to give them a little more time before we hear from them. I'd like to sort of have two chairs every meeting. Anyone have a suggestion of another committee to hear from on the January 11th besides the school committee?
January 11th,
Concom?
that's pretty early.
Concom? Okay.
Yeah, Concom.
I'll see if we can
Makes
get that. Okay? So then we're meeting on the 11th, meeting on the 25th. Yep.
What about the MMA annual conference? Have those applications, are those out?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't get anything.
Oh. Well,
If you go online, that would be the way to hook it up.
yeah, that's
How did you get yours?
multiple ways. I just got a mailing that came, but I've been going to MMA meetings, so they probably have me on another
I
mailing
didn't
list.
get a mailing.
But the,
I mean,
the
I'm
Beacon-
just looking at it right now.
Did you get the Beacon for December? Because it's in there, how to register.
Okay, I may have the Beacon.
We're happy to assist in the office if you'd like,
Thank you.
Carolyn or Diane as well.
I'm going, but I register through the county.
Oh, you did, so you didn't do it as a selectman? And Sue?
I'm registered.
And how'd you do yours?
I don't know, I might have found it online.
Actually,
But how'd you know to go online? Okay,
I think
it's fine. I
I-
won't take up time for that.
Carolyn will do it for you, too. Carolyn
Yeah,
Grassi.
okay, all right,
In the office.
In the office, Carolyn Grassi.
okay.
All right, so then we have a meeting on February 8th and we have February 22nd.
And February 22nd?
Yeah. In March, right now, we have one for the 7th and the 21st. I think we need to add another one pre-town meeting, because town meeting is starting on April 4th. As to where that should fall, it looks like it couldn't,
28th?
well, right, would be the 28th would be when we would need to add another meeting. We should do that.
On the 28th?
Yeah.
Day after Easter?
And I just want to do,
Okay, January, February, March.
in April, we'll have the town meetings on the 4th and 5th. And do you think we should have a meet on the 11th? Well, Patriots Day, the 18th, is a holiday. And I think we probably, even though it says right now no meeting on the 11th, I think we probably do need to meet
You
then.
think so? Yeah.
And then it's right 5th, and then that will deal with those first 4 months of the year.
Okay.
Great.
And now we'll also go to November. And the suggestion of the town meeting date would be November 14th. The week before is Election Day, and I think it makes sense not to be meeting
On the
and this year,
Monday,
Election
yeah.
Day. And the week after that, we're into Thanksgiving.
Right.
And
Okay.
so I think it's sort of set, but I think Mr. Patterson did suggest do this way in advance, and we can see if we decide we want to check out the high school as the location for it, we can find out whether it's available or try to schedule it already.
Okay.
And I'll put an agenda item in January to have a vote on as to what our interest level is at the high school before we even ask them for it.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're not gonna go ahead and sort of reserve it with the school department this time?
I'm going to find out if it's available on the 14th.
Good.
And that week, and say, if it is, please hold it for a little bit longer, and because we have not committed, that's what we want to do yet, but I just want to make sure it's even an option.
Okay.
Any individual selectmen's reports?
Well,
Mr.
I'll
Patterson?
just quickly mention, I did attend the school committee meeting on the 8th of December, and they've got their MCAS results back, and our school system looked quite positive compared to the comparable districts here on Cape Cod and I think across Massachusetts. They're into their budget season, and one of the things that they mentioned, their priorities are basically trying to improve student achievement overall. They've got, in their MCAS results, there are special subgroups like special needs and English language learners that didn't do as well as the rest of the general population, and so they're trying to target them. They'd like to provide a little bit better social-emotional support. We know of the opiate epidemic, I guess you'd call it, that's going on, and that's affecting children and families, of course. And then they also would like to increase special needs support at the classroom level, so they don't have to have as much pull-out, but at least do it at the appropriate level. So those are the kinds of budget priorities that they actually have mentioned. Challenges, particularly on the revenue side, well, I shouldn't say that, it's both revenue and cost. They've got increased transportation costs, just as we have to pay more for garbage collection. Their transportation costs have gone up. That's a strain on their resources. They're losing their kindergarten grant, which is something that Falmouth has enjoyed because we've offered full-day kindergarten for quite a few years now. And also, just the annual increase in employee step salary benefits and their lane changes that occur from more education. Those are the things that they're challenged to deal with. I've already mentioned the annual Cape Coastal Conference and managing coastal risk. I think it was, for me, and kind of a reality check, because there was a lot of discussion about figuring out what's important to your town, infrastructure, cultural things like beaches. If you've got a favorite coastal road that you want to preserve, you need to start thinking about the kind of storm damage we should be expecting, and then kind of saying, what are we going to do when those things happen? This came up at the planning board joint meeting, but I think we need to take it seriously. There's one other thing that came out of there that I think we should pursue, and I've communicated with Julian about this, but we have a Barnstable Cooperative Extension Service specialist in coastal, sorry, I've got it in my notes here, coastal rating system it's called. And if the town takes certain measures in planning for coastal damage mitigation, we actually can qualify for the individual property owners who have to have flood insurance discounts so that they don't have to pay quite as much. And of course, this is going to affect all those folks in the Little Pond Sewer Service area. So this would be a benefit we could bring to our property owners by participating in this program. And it's scaled, so the more that the town does in preparation for these kind of coastal hazards, if you will, the more discount your individual property owners get. And we have a specialist, she's very active, very proactive, and very experienced. She came here from the Tidewater area of Virginia, having done the same thing. She happens to be from Massachusetts originally, but now is working at the county level. And I would just like to see us take advantage of that program. And I think we already have done some things that will just automatically qualify our property owners for the minimal levels of discounts if we just get involved in this program. So she's there and ready to assist us, and I just would like to see us take advantage of that. And I think the whole emphasis is preparing for some kind of storm damage, so that you've already thought out what's gonna happen. And that's something we should be doing anyway.
Great idea.
Just to add on to that, her name is Virginia, and.
Shannon.
Shannon, I mean.
From
She's
Virginia.
from Virginia. She was brought in
Shannon Jarbo.
to help the towns, help the residents of the town. It's not to help the town, it's to help the residents of the town, but she has to go through the town. And I've been informed that we are one of the towns that has not responded very well to her overtures, so I can give you more details on that, but, you know.
I don't, she didn't really say that.
No,
She's
her
been
boss
reaching,
told me that.
she's been reaching
Yeah, I know,
out to
but-
various towns, and she just really hadn't gotten to Falmouth in any significant way. It's kind of the way she told me.
Well, she's being very nice about it.
Okay.
Just in addition to asking the town manager to hook her up, which I guess is what we're doing, maybe also coordinate with the Energy Committee, Megan Amsler and, you know, however, to the extent that they do climate issues, and in other words, somehow get some resources to move this forward.
I wanted to mention, I've been meeting with a group that's dealing with homeless issues in town. It's Paul Rifkin, actually, is spearheading it with Alan Burt, who's been doing this for like over 20 years. And all the town staff here, the human services people are there, Falmouth Housing Authority is there, the Housing Trust, Linda Clark, everybody's there. And it's really worked out very well. And the faith community has stepped up. In fact, St. Barnabas has already applied to the building commissioner for the permit to be able to have homeless people stay overnight at St. Barnabas. And I think some of the other churches are going to be doing that as well. You have to get a permit from the town to do that. And the other night, a group of, 3 of them went out where the homeless people congregate, you know, at night. And they went out with food and clothes and, you know, some other types of things to help them out. So I think this is really going to begin to take off. And we do have homeless people here in town. And some of them are known. Some just choose to be that way. And the idea is to try to help them understand that that's not really the way to live their lives. I wanted to mention, too, that the employee Christmas luncheon here was great, and the dinner at Coonamessett that the employees put on. I think that was the union, one of
Correct.
the unions that put on the
AFSCME.
dinner at Coonamessett, AFSCME. Yeah, they were really fun events, so that was good. And the other thing I wanted to mention was there was the premiere showing of the opioid movie was at Community College the other night. And I think there were 700 people there. But it's also going to be shown on HBO on December 28th at 9 o'clock. So those who missed the Boston premiere and the one here, it will be shown on HBO. That's it for me.
Great.
Anyone else? I was just mentioning that Mr. Patterson, Mr. Suso, and I had the pleasure of serving the community Christmas dinner at the senior center, and it was a very festive occasion. They appreciated the great service they got that day.
Indeed, they did.
Mr. Suso?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Yes, I agree, it was certainly a pleasure to assist with that. This past Friday, several of us made a short field visit to Chatham to view their new state-of-the-art selectmen's meeting room. The board will recall that funds have been appropriated for that purpose, so we're very pleased to have Pat Flynn join us on behalf of the board at that visit. We also visited another example of an attractive meeting room, this in Orleans. And we look forward to bringing a summary of recommendations to members of the board in anticipation of an upgrade of the facilities here within the dollars set aside. I also want to note that Town Hall and Town Administrative Offices will be closed on Friday, December 25th for the Christmas holiday, and on Friday, January 1 for the New Year's holiday. And the board's next meeting has been set for Tuesday, January 5th. As Chairman Jones has noted, that'll be at 7 p.m. in the Herman Room at the Falmouth Library. And this meeting is specifically for the presentation of the FY 2017 operating budget to the board, which I'll be transmitting to the board under separate cover in anticipation of that meeting. Your next regular business meeting after January 5th, of course, will be the following Monday, January 11th, back here in the Selectmen's Meeting Room. And Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and a blessed holiday season to all. Thank you.
Thanks. A quick question on the town manager's report. With respect to the upgrade of this room, is there going to be coordination with FCTV in terms of the folks at home getting a benefit in terms of?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When design is determined, the appurtenances necessary to work with FCTV will be an important part of that.
Yeah, that's the biggest part of it, really.
Absolutely.
It's the tech part.
Thank you.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
And wish you all a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and we'll see you in 2016.
Very great.